night would be tragic.
I'd like to start the Architectural Board of Review meeting for April 16th, with the first item on the agenda being public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on an item not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting and go on to item B, which is approval of the minutes of the previous ABR meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
A seconder? Seconded by Chris. Motion made by Paul. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes? These were from Monday, April 2nd. Stephanie?
In item number 1, comment number 1, I would scratch the word mass from the last word of that sentence, the last sentence on number 1. That's it.
Oh, just because it's duplicate.
Yeah. The wall mass.
More wall at the corners
The
of the
new
building
windows are a lot
mass.
more wall mass at the corner of the building.
Oh, scratch the second mass.
Yes.
Yeah,
Second
got it.
word mass.
I agree. Does anybody else have any comments on the minutes? Is everybody done reviewing the minutes? All
Yes.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Paul's abstaining. Gloria? Motion carries. And we'll move on to the consent calendar. This would be the consent calendar for Monday, April 9th. Can I have a motion to ratify the consent calendar minutes?
Make the motion.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Stephanie. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. Consent calendar last week, April 9th, we had item A, 329 South Salinas Street was continued 1 week. Item B, 3230 State Street was continued 1 week. And item C, 421 East Coda Street was a review after final that was approved as submitted. And consent last week was reviewed by Paul Zink and Chris Gilliland.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have the consent calendar for today. Can I have a motion to ratify that consent calendar?
I'll make that motion.
Paul, made by Paul,
Second.
seconded by Chris.
Okay, for consent calendar today, April 16th, we had item A, 3230 State Street, was continued 1 week. Item B, 1711 and 1713 Loma Street, was continued 1 week. And item C, 329 South Salinas Street, got a final approval as noted on the plans. Consent today was reviewed by Paul Zink and Chris Gilliland.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Gary, you in on that one?
Yeah.
Were you an aye on that one? Okay. Okay. Announcements. Any announcements? Tony?
Yes, Keith Rivera and Kirk Gradine will both be absent today.
All right.
And an announcement regarding a change to the agenda. Item 7, the 500 block of West Anapamu, will be postponed to April the 30th. We'd already mailed out a notice for that to be on today's agenda, so we went ahead and put it on the agenda, and we'll postpone it to a date certain, April 30th.
Okay. Any more announcements?
So I'll just mention something that we sent to you by email regarding the semi-annual recruitment for city advisory group members is in progress, and there's a schedule for that. There's a deadline to resign and also a deadline to apply. Appointments will be June 6th or June 26th. And another item, again, we sent this to you by email. A City of Santa Barbara Advisory Groups workshop on Wednesday, April 25th at the Library Faulkner Gallery. There'll be some information there from the city attorney, Stephen Wiley, about potential conflicts of interest, and also a financial update from Jim Armstrong. Let's see, Kathy Kennedy's here. She has an announcement for you.
All right.
Tom? I did want to ask a question on item number 7. So you sent us an email on that. Did those towers originally go through ABR? Because I don't remember that those towers were ever addressed at an ABR meeting before.
They did. I forget. I saw the minutes from that. It was early 1990s. They've been there a while, but they did get approved by the ABR.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Back in November, when some of you were on the board, I think a couple of people weren't, I passed out a draft mitigated negative declaration for the project titled Lower Sycamore Creek Channel Widening and Punta Gorda Street Bridge Replacement Project. You may recall receiving that draft initial study. So that went out for public review. We've finalized it, and this project is coming back to you in 2 weeks. So in your packet today, I wanted to show you what you have. You have a final mitigated negative declaration initial study. Then you have the revised plans attached to that. Then there's another sheet that says that the exhibits B through O are not attached. They are online. I didn't want to print out a number of copies again since you received them back in November. So they're available on our city website. You can review those there. And then the final section are the response to comments that we received during the public review period. We've responded to those, and they're included. So that's for you. There will be a staff report and conditions of approval available. I plan to get those to you before you end your meeting today. So I'll bring them down, make sure you get those before you leave. And the reason why you're reviewing this is that this is a design review approval project only. It does not go to Planning Commission. It did go to Planning Commission to have them review the draft initial study. They do that, but the final one is up to you to adopt. So in 2 weeks, you'll have the project. You'll have this document to adopt and then to review the project for your regular project approval process. So I'm giving it to you 2 weeks ahead of time. There's a lot to read, and if you have any questions about it, you can email me or call me about it. Just wanted to make sure you understand the process and what's expected. And like I said, you'll have a staff report that explains it a little bit more and the conditions of approval to review.
I think I'm not quite sure on what's expected of us in approving this negative declaration.
Well, what you'll do is, when you read through this, determine whether it's adequate, that it covers all the issue areas, and whether you feel like it adequately comes to the conclusions that we conclude that it's not a significant impact to this project. It's not significant. And there are a number of issue areas. You know, it's air quality and transportation, geology, and such.
It seems like those issues are outside of the purview of the ABR, and we've come up with this before. Kathleen, it's not
I know
you that I'm picking on, but this has come up before, and we've expressed concern that,
I understand.
that it's out of our purview. So I wish there was another way that this could be handled. And I just
what
wanted
does
to
help
put
is that the draft did go to the Planning Commission, and they normally review these, and they didn't have any comments other than it was adequate, and that's in here too, that they felt it like it was adequate, and they had a couple of other comments on the project itself. And they're the ones who typically review these, so you can take that into consideration when you review it. And I understand it's different. I think you've only looked at one other in the recent past.
If we approved it and something came up in the future, and it came back to who approved it, it would come back to our board
Yes,
as the body that approved it.
that's correct.
Maybe I'm the only one that's concerned about that. Is anybody else concerned about that?
I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying, and there's a lot to digest in these reports.
I'm just good. I'd like to go on record as feeling not qualified to review and approve a negative declaration.
Right. Okay,
So-
we can have staff here. I'll be here in 2 weeks to walk you through it, but I understand. It's understandable.
Okay.
It's a design
Thanks,
review board.
Kathleen.
Okay.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Well, why don't we just sort of make a motion that say we should think Planning Commission should review it because they get paid $50 a meeting to read these things and we don't.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Staff.
All right, you heard it.
Okay.
Anybody else want to make any comment? It's very substantial. It's going to be some good bathtub reading. Okay. Thanks, Kathleen. Any more announcements? Subcommittee reports? Tony, why do we have possible zoning ordinance violations on our agenda all the time when we're not supposed to be bringing those up as part of our
That's
agenda?
only on your notes
Oh, it's only
agenda
on
and
that
my
one?
notes agenda. That's not on
It's
the
not on the
published
other one,
agenda.
okay. We can? Okay. No. No. I just was wondering why it's still on there because we were told to submit those individually if we had a violation concern, so.
Yeah, definitely let staff know if you know of any possible ordinance violations.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Okay, then we'll go straight to 336 North Milpas, item number 1. This is Fresh and Easy Neighborhood Market. This is a final review of the as-built relocation of the site walls and associated reduction in landscaping planting area, and a waiver is requested to provide less than the required depth of the perimeter planters. Hi, your name for the record.
Chris Perry with Pergolas Roof. I'm the project manager for the project.
Okay. All right. When was the last time we saw this? It looks like it was reviewed on consent for a review after final. Did it come here? Did it get kicked up, Tony, from consent?
Nope, this is a new review after final. Maybe
Okay.
what you're looking at is on today's agenda.
I know, I see that, but okay. Okay, go ahead.
Well, what we have is the existing perimeter wall along perpendicular to Gutierrez. Perpendicular to Gutierrez Street was relocated approximately 1 foot 5 inches in from the approved location. And the reason for doing that is the adjacent neighbor's driveway, if we had built it where it was approved per the ABR plans, would have cut a foot out of their driveway. So that's the reason that wall was located where it's as built today. And I can show you on civil plans clearer. All right. The lighter is the approved location, and then the dark wall is the as-built location, and there's the 1 foot 5 dimension of where it was.
How much planter do they have left?
We have lost a total of 331 square feet off of both the wall relocations. There's two. This wall, the one perpendicular to Milpas, was relocated in on the site as well. And there's mature existing landscaping, and there's some conversation with Fresh and Easy, our client, and this neighbor with regards to that wall location and not wanting it on the property line originally. And Mr. Shearer is here from Fresh and Easy and can answer questions with regards to that. But there's large mature landscaping. I've got some photographs of what that looks like now. So this wall is this wall. And then there's also been an issue raised with the actual height of this wall. As approved, it's supposed to be a 6-foot high wall from the property line, and we have our civil engineer here to talk about that as well,
Okay.
that it is built to plan.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Saltz with Penfield and Smith, the civil engineer for the project, and we just went out after the wall was built and checked the wall heights. Not the surveyor is someone outside of our firm. They checked the horizontal location, but we went out and checked the wall heights to confirm that they were per the plan, and they are, which is a 6-foot wall maximum along the southerly property line and an 8-foot wall maximum along the easterly property line.
Okay.
And then Mr. Cunningham, who's our landscape architect, had revised his landscape plans based on the as-built locations. And he can talk about that design.
Yeah, the landscape design has not essentially changed, except for the fact that we changed the shrubbery that is adjacent to the wall on both the property lines in question to a different species of shrub, because the footing for the wall extends 3 feet into the property from the wall at a maximum depth, I think, of 18 inches. And so we changed out the shrubs to select one that was better suited to a shallow soil condition. That's all.
Do you have a detail of that? Is there or does Penfield and Smith have a detail of that footing? Somewhere?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know that we have a detail of that on there.
We also have, after the fact, gone in and cut out sections of the footing to accommodate the trees.
That was going to be
Yes.
my concern.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can only get a 30 inch by 30 inch cutout open on the outside, on the outer edge, but it will accommodate the trees that we've specified.
Okay. Is that it for the project?
That's it for the project, yes.
Okay, we have a couple of public speakers. We have Clark Ortone, followed by Constantino Francos. So, Clark? Yeah, it is on. Thanks, Bob.
Hi,
Hi.
Clark Ortone, and I own the property at 920 East Gutierrez, which on the plan there is it's the R2 property to the east, and it's the driveway. My driveway is the one that
That's your
caused the
driveway.
problem. Yeah, but interestingly enough, over the past 70 or so years, my property has been commonly owned with 336 North Milpas, and it was believed that at the time that these properties were commonly that had the same owner, that's when these improvements took place. I guess they didn't really, it was not really an issue for them at the time. There were a number of other improvements made which since then have been removed, but this is one of the last that remains. And I appreciate Fresh and Easy for working around the problem and being so cooperative and helpful. They've just been terrific to work with.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know the reason for the problem.
Okay. Thanks, Clark. Constantine.
Hello. Congratulations, Madam Chair. Last time I was here, you were just a regular member.
Just a regular member.
So congratulations and condolences.
No, I'm just a regular chair. Thank you.
First of all, my attorney normally represents me, but he had a family issue, and he could not be here. So I'll make sure.
I think we have a copy of that.
Have a copy? Okay, perfect. First of all, I've never had a conversation with Fresh and Easy about the placement of the wall. back and forth. The only issue we had, we went to council, got a 6-foot limit. They originally wanted an 8-foot wall, and we considered a cinder block as like an institutional wall. It needs to be 6 feet, and it's over the 6 feet as it is right now. You said there was a survey. Is there a survey in the public record that you guys have done?
It's on the civil plans in the submittal to ABR, yes.
Okay, because we like to see it every time we've asked it, it hasn't been available. But let me show you pictures I took today. This is the garbage enclosure. That's about 6 feet. And you can see the wall is way over the 6 feet. Question we've had, we asked this, is where do you take the measurements from? And then we just had questions. Literally, I wanted it under 6 feet. Council's direction was could be no more than 6 feet from either side of the property line. It is over 6 feet. It's about 1 course over the 6 feet right now. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Let me give you all these. Let me give you that one. Okay. And that was our concern.
Yeah, can you, well, yeah, go ahead. I wanted to keep them on the screen, but yeah.
I've got a second set here. And my concern, the way we measure it, I don't know how they measure it, but it's over the 6 feet, and it should be under the 6 feet. That was directed by City Council. That's why we appealed ABR's decision, went to City Council, and City Council was unanimous to keep it under the 6 feet. That was our biggest concern.
Under 6 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 feet was the maximum. That's it. Nothing over. So it's about a course to course and a half over, at least on our side. So that was our biggest concern.
Okay, is that the end of your presentation?
Soon for now.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item? Nope. Okay, I'll bring it back.
Madam Chair,
We have staff comments.
I just want to give you an
Okay.
up-to-date. What was not updated to you, because there are some new board members here that weren't involved with
You
the
guys might
appeal.
want to listen to this. Okay.
As you recall, this item was appealed, this project was appealed last June, and it did go to City Council. And at that appeal hearing, there were several issues raised as far as the building itself and the adequacy. The two appeal issues that were finally, we did receive direction from City Council was the inadequate sidewalk width, which Mr. Frangos raised as an issue. And Council was receptive to that and actually directed that more sidewalk width be obtained as part of a redesign. And we worked with Fresh and Easy to achieve that result. In those discussions, Council was aware that there were some space constraints because the building had already been designed. And they directed the project back to staff to achieve that added street width, sidewalk width. The second issue, Mr. Frangos is correct, is that he requested that the 8-foot wall be reduced on his common property line to 6-foot maximum. And we did our best to put those conditions on the project. What I did want to advise you is that there was an inspection component of this that allowed the wall to be relocated. In other words, the city did go out and inspect it and felt that there was some justification to move the wall in order to preserve this landscaping, planting, and also because of the neighbor's request to not interrupt their driveway. So that's the explanation that the inspectors gave me. So I wanted to have you understand that, in fact, the inspectors did allow the wall to be constructed in its current location. It was only after we discovered that it was relocated without approval that we asked the Fresh and Easy folks to come in with an as-built plan. And we also advised them that by relocating the wall, that obviously reduced the actual planted area of the plantings, which is something that needs to have a waiver granted by the board. So we are in a predicament where, in fact, the wall was relocated. It was approved to be relocated by the building inspection staff, but it did not return to the ABR prior to that relocation. So that's what you're faced with now, whether or not this does impact the project. And then when that, as far as the degree of landscaping, and what the ordinance says is that you have to find it that it's equally effective in order to have a reduction approved. And you've done that on occasion with other projects. We've made it some relief granted. The last item I wanted to point out is Mr. Frangos is correct. If you were to measure it from the grade of the parking lot, it would appear to be over 6 feet. That we have made it an interpretation that we measure the height of the wall from the base of the wall. And because of that measurement, it does meet in general compliance with the 6-foot rules. Because you have a sloping condition and a steep condition, there might be points that it does exceed the 6 foot, but in general, as you measure along, you do have a 6-foot height.
So there might be a little triangular portion before it makes a step that.
And
I get it.
so we've responded to Mr. Frangos that we think it's in general compliance with that standard.
Okay. Thanks, Jaime. That answers one of my questions. Okay, questions? Do you have any questions?
My question for Jaime talked about the average, also the height was measured from the existing grade.
Finished grade, we actually did put tape measure on it, and it is consistent.
Is your mic on, Stephanie?
But not at the existing grade for the project.
Was under construction or started construction.
We're measuring it from the low side.
Okay.
And the low side is where we have that 6-foot
Right.
limitation.
Okay. Questions, Paul?
A question about the landscaping. There was no change in landscaping, or the bush, the variety of the shrubs was changed. Are there any vines proposed along that wall, or is it just trees and shrubs?
It's just trees and shrubs, and the shrubs will reach, essentially reach the height of the wall.
And how wide is the landscape planter now?
It's about 3.5 feet at minimum.
3.5 feet from the back of curb to the face of the wall.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, questions?
Yeah, a question on that volume statement that you brought down. Bob, can you correct me? What wasn't vines requested by the board in order to cover up graffiti at the time?
We may have vines on the wall. It's been a while.
It looks to me like you might have one creeping fig sitting there on this picture. Look at that
I
one.
need glasses.
Is that one little stick there, creeping fig?
That is probably, let me check. Yeah, actually, we do have Boston ivy. We've got 5 Boston ivy vines.
That clings to the wall.
Yes, sorry about that.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
There are no plans to stucco the wall. It's supposed to be remain split face block. Okay.
It was approved.
Yeah, it was approved as split face block.
More questions? Chris?
A question for Bob. What was the old shrub variety that was, do you recall?
It was Arbutus unito compacta.
And now it's the African box.
Yeah.
Okay. And was it a 5-gallon previous?
Same size.
Same
container size, correct.
Okay. And it looks like from the second page it looks like it's gone from about a 4-foot planter to about a 2-foot. Is that accurate? Along the east?
I think it's 3.5.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I measured wrong.
You said 3 minimum before.
I think it's 3.5 feet from the back of the curb to the face of the wall.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all I have for questions.
Are you ready to make your comments, Chris?
Yeah, Mike, I really don't have any. I think actually the changes look fine. The plant chosen will screen the wall. It's a pretty fast-growing shrub and easily kept in check, and I think it'll do what the previous shrub had done before, and that's to hide the wall sufficiently. That's really all I have. Everything else seems fine to me.
Thanks, Chris. Gary?
Yeah, I'm okay with the moving of the wall. I would question the height on the wall, though. If I count the blocks, there's from the photograph that we have right here, just counting the blocks.
This could be the 8-foot.
That's the 8-foot. This is.
That's an 8-foot side.
I counted the blocks on the other one, too.
This
yeah.
is the little.
Okay. So there's a section that's allowed to be 8 feet, or was okay with the 8 feet?
The perimeter wall up against the Gutierrez residence is 8 feet.
Okay.
The wall perpendicular to Milpas is the wall that
South
needs
wall.
to be, the south wall needs to be 6 feet, and that's the
That's
step wall.
that's fine. I'm clear on that then. No, I'm okay with the project as submitted.
Thanks, Gary. Paul?
I'm fine with the changes. It's a shame it happened. You didn't get a survey at the beginning to tell you where that driveway was. That dropped off, but there's always hiccups during construction, so it is what it is.
Stephanie?
I'm fine with the project as
Would
is.
anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval of the approval of the plans, revision after final for the changing of the walls on the two sides that do not face the public right-of-way due to construction constraints that were discovered while under construction. And the height of the wall, as interpreted by the city planning department, is satisfactory.
Do I have a seconder of the motion? Seconded by Gary. Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you could just state if you actually are granting a waiver, a reduction of the landscape. I mean, it's inferred, but I think on record you have to indicate that you are doing that.
Yeah,
We can support a waiver.
That's what you're doing.
supporting a waiver for reduction in the landscaping, mainly because the landscaping exists on the other side of the wall for the community's sake, or for the actual neighbors. But for our site, for the public right-of-way where the parking lot is located, there will be sufficient landscaping provided for this project to screen the wall, which was the purpose of landscaping.
Thanks, Paul. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are 4 minutes early, and I think that's okay for us. Of 5.
This is going to be a long meeting. Anyway.
What?
It's going to be a long meeting. We got a lot on the agenda.
I know. It would be nice to have for these longer agenda items more than a half an hour scheduled. Just if we think they're going to be longer. So we're on to item number 2. 1255 Coast Village Road.
Tony has the plans.
I don't think he has mine, does he? He does? Oh,
You mean we actually submitted in advance?
It's about time.
No kidding. Except I'm sure there'll be something wrong.
What's that?
It's a site plan to refer to.
Yeah, seeing what's happening.
I don't know if Suzanne wanted to be you know, because she had.
We're starting a few minutes early. I think we can go ahead and start, right, Tony? And the last time the board saw this was back in August of 2011. The comments that were made, just because Stephanie wasn't here and I wasn't at the last meeting, but I've reviewed the plans. The motion was an indefinite continuance after courtesy review by Montecito Planning Commission, which did happen. And the comments were the direction of the project, including site planning, mass, bulk, and scale, and architectural style is supportable. Continue developing all elevations, including the interior courtyard. Study increasing planting opportunities on the podium and in-ground locations. The proposed modifications pose no negative aesthetic impacts. The upper roof elements at the residential roof decks are supportable and provide cross-sections showing the relationship to the building and property to the south.
So Brian Cornell, with me is Phil Suding. We did receive Planning Commission approval, so we do have a few specific conditions relative to that staff should have for you. But let me just go ahead and quickly review the project with you. These are the civil drawings, of course, starting with the ground level. So Coast Village Road, Coast Village Circle, which actually used to be known as Depot Road. The Janine's Bakery is right here. And one of the big issues when we first started working on this, we discovered that Janine's outdoor patio actually encroaches onto this property. So there's been quite a bit of work. In fact, I'm even meeting with the Janine's folks tomorrow about this. But essentially, at the Planning Commission, we agreed to grant an easement for the deck to remain, and we got a modification for the deck to be allowed to be built there, and we have to essentially rebuild it per the building department because it was sort of jerry-rigged in there, and then it will be okay to remain. So that's the status of the deck. It's a large podocarpus that's in this location that is being removed, and Phil has proposed it being replaced with a large Monterey cypress in this location. I'll let him go over the landscape plan with you in a moment. We basically have designed this so that there is the appearance of more diminutive scaled buildings, kind of in the spirit of older Coast Village Road. So we've kind of created these 25-foot modules. The corner is a one-story restaurant. These buildings are 2 stories. All of the parking is accessed at the low point off Coast Village Circle and into this completely subterranean parking structure, which has the required number of parking spaces. Here's the elevator for the parking structure, and that ends up landing up at this area off this little paseo that we've brought in off of Coast Village Road. There are a couple of residential units in the back. That's that courtyard that was mentioned in the minutes. And those 2 residential units have 2 designated parking spaces for them. Second floor of the residential and the second floor of the commercial. And roof plan. For you that saw it anyway, we are proposing rooftop decks. One of the neighbors, or it was actually I think it's the Save Our Village folks, were actually very positive about the project, but were concerned about stairways coming up to the roofs. So we actually have designed these stairs so that they land half a landing down, and then these stairs will be open to the air. So the stairs will drain outward from these landings, but it avoids the whole idea of a sort of a penthouse up on the roof, which was a concern because of the mass of those elements. These are the 2 primary elevations from Coast Village Road and then from Coast Village Circle. Here you can get a good sense of the slope of Coast Village Circle and how it enabled that entrance down to the parking structure below. This is that 1-story restaurant element. The planter walls that are forward we're proposing to be in sandstone. These are the other 2 elevations from Coast Village, or from behind the building, and you can actually see the outline of the building that's behind us or to the south of us along Coast Village Circle. And then this is the outline of the building where Janine's is housed relative to this elevation, which will face it. And we do have a couple of cross sections, so this gives a good sense of that courtyard space. This is actually, I believe, cutting through the garage, and that's the building next door. So this is actually a section through that paseo. So this is the architecture that will face that little paseo with the elevator opening to it. And then this is more of a cross section through the courtyard You can get a sense of what the existing grade is doing. And this is that condition at the stairway so that we don't end up with a large penthouse up at the rooftop deck level. And a couple of more elevations in the courtyard facing north and in the courtyard facing south. So you can see, again, we don't have any protrusions off this rooftop. These are the two garage doors for the two residential parking spaces. And then these are just some photo sims that we did to depict the views of the project, primarily from the corner. And then we did do a little quick photo sim of what that would look like from the freeway. And then, of course, the important thing, which is Phil's plans, which I'll let him spend 32 seconds.
Okay, 32 seconds. TikTok.
Giving the basic concept for.
As Brian mentioned earlier, we're going to put a Monterey cypress there, and we're going to start large, probably with like a 86-inch box. And it's sort of deceiving that this planter here is the only planting space that will have, because if you see this dashed line here, you can see that that's the line of the garage. So it really has all of this area here as the root zone coming across. It's a very Mediterranean landscape. We have approval to replace this existing magnolia with another magnolia, and we've also got a designation on the street trees, which will be the crepe myrtle. Thank you. I knew that was going to escape me. Planting along the whole frontage here, around the corner. There'll be a hedge to help screen this patio.
These are, just to be clear, these are actually raised planters because they're over the garage. So we have these so that we have an 18-inch wall that supports these, but the planters themselves are going to be a minimum of 36 inches of soil.
Drop the ceiling in the garage
to pick up drainage. So we're going to step that section of the garage ceiling to accommodate that.
Okay. Then working around the down on Coast Village Road, we have street trees, which will be either Cassia pyrus of Tababuya, ground cover, shrubs, landscaping, a wall around the transformer with 3 nice trees in there. Moving on into the courtyard, we're using a variety of pots with vines and tall plants in them. We're sort of tricking the eye in the courtyard here by putting down a layer of decomposed granite or gold gravel to sort of fool the eye into thinking that that's actually ground, and we're just setting the pots on top of that. It's worked well in many other projects that I've done. So, yeah, that's the look right there in the photo. I always forget that we have photos there. So it's fairly heavily landscaped around the perimeter. We've really squeezed out as much as planting as we could. Brian had contacted me, and the owner had contacted me in the very beginning to try and get all of these things in there. So I think that was good. It wasn't like, here, Phil, just deal with what we have left over here. We talked about depressing that. We talked about getting this as big as possible by removing a parking space. So
just a couple of other quick things. We have pulled the whole parking structure back along our western property boundary because there is an encroachment there now, and so we've pretty much just given that up. And that's in this little side service yard area off of this building.
So that becomes kind of a shared landscape. The landscape area is really from here to that walkway, so it's wider than it appears. It's twice wide,
actually,
really.
it's to the building. There's some stepping
stones, yeah.
This side, we're likewise pulling it back and creating a little shelf. There's an existing retaining wall along here that we are leaving, and then we're building our garage, and basically the gap between those walls will have soil pretty much like it does now, and then that will be designed as kind of a green screen along.
We'll have plants trailing down the retaining wall, the existing retaining wall, as well as plants growing up on that screen.
And finally, and then I'll stop, I should mention, this actually is not this is a little, really, it's a retaining curb. This area is sloping back down like the driveway, and this is going to become a little depressed area for additional retention. So this is essentially a curb wall that retains a flat transformer area. And then what is not on this plan, that's why I brought the other plan, is this is where the backflow device is going to go next to this transformer. And then we also, one of your conditions here is a project directory, and I'll just mark it on this plan, but I have it on the plot below. Okay. Our project directory is going to be located in that location, and the fire department has approved that. And that's just why I brought this, Don, to show that's the project directory, and that's the backflow device. So we are here for preliminary, hopefully.
Project design approval. Before we go into public comment, I wanted to point out that the Planning Commission had some design review requests for us to review, and I'll just state them. And some of them, a couple maybe you didn't address, so maybe now's the time to do that. The first one is submit to the Planning Division verification of approval from the Parks Commission for removal and replacement of the southern magnolia from the parking planter on Coast Village Road. You talked about that one.
Right. Yeah, we have that.
The pedestrian pathway, a separate pedestrian pathway from the upper driveway using a different walkway material, and you have that, right? That's the courtyard pathway? No. Oh, that's that one.
This is this one, and so I've got to have a handrail along here, so we've actually designed this as a wall element, so it definitely will be separated there. They could have been talking about this pavement, so we're going to differentiate between the walking area and the driving area with that line.
The screen backflow device you talked about. The project directory is actually a sign committee issue. So it says it shall be included in the project plans, but actually the directories are part of the sign committee.
Depending on the size of the font, it could be exempt from sign
review. If it's 2 inches or less, then it's part of our plans. If it's
And I don't have any detail on that, obviously, at this point. It's just,
just
located for now. It'll be in further plans.
Adequate trash enclosure you have two, right? You have one in the parking structure as
we
well?
have the residential trash, is in the parking structure.
Right.
So residents will use this, and then the commercial functions will use those two bins.
Okay.
And that has been reviewed with Marburg.
Has it been reviewed by the city's Rob Blesky?
Thomas
Oretsky. Oh, I was so close, so far.
And it is accessible.
I hope he's not listening.
Because now we have to make our trash enclosures accessible.
Okay. And the bicycle parking, I missed that. Where is that again?
Bicycle parking, we have 2 covered or 4 covered spaces down in the parking structure, right off of the elevator space, and then we have 2 that are covered right here.
Okay. The podocarpus tree replacement, I think you talked about, and temporary construction sound wall must be installed in the northwest corner at the edge of the deck, right there. Okay. Those were all of the resolutions directed specifically to the ABR.
And that's actually one of the things I'm meeting with Janine's about, is that the Planning Commission left it really up to us to resolve with them how high they wanted this wall to be and how long they wanted it to remain, et cetera.
Okay. And then just so everybody knows that this was one of the comments from last time, I think, can you tell us where you increased the planning opportunities at the podium in the in-ground locations, where you increased them from last time?
The only places that we've maybe increased them is along here at the back of the sidewalk on Coast Village Road. These have always been pretty much the same size.
Well, they did increase because we were closer in the process of working through with planning and the necessary pedestrian master plan sidewalk. With these buildings have moved back from the last time you saw them.
And then again here along that property line, the landscape has increased a bit.
I think we also added this
a couple of feet
since
to that.
We saw you last as well.
Okay. Okay, is there any public comment on this item? No? All right, I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Chris, do you have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. You're looking at using flagstone, actual flagstone, or is that a
It
stamped?
would be actual flagstone, like a Cherokee or Oklahoma.
Okay, so are you going to basically leave room for that when you pour the slab?
Yes.
Okay, and then mortar it in. Okay. Can you describe, I'm kind of looking at the transformer location again, and can you give me an idea of the top of the transformer versus the sidewalk elevation? Just trying to figure out if that's visible, how visible that is.
Well, it's pretty visible. I mean, the transformer is at the sidewalk elevation, so
Okay.
it is so the transformer is what, 42 inches or 4 feet, something like that?
Okay, so we will have an opportunity to screen that because you have some planter.
Yeah, and
as much as Edison will allow.
And
because
by the way, all we're showing here, because we haven't worked out the final transformer size, this is the pad.
Okay.
So this is not the actual transformer. It's the 6x8 pad, and hopefully
Got it.
the transformer will be 4x5 or something in that.
And we may, if we have room, want to rotate it a bit so that the access that has to remain clear 5 feet of planting is pointing this way as opposed to pointing towards the sidewalk. I don't know. We can talk about that.
Okay. And then the last question, the large cypress that you'll be adding, you said about an 84-inch box. Is that a raised planter that is going into?
That will be a raised planter, and it would be most likely, and I don't have approval from the owner yet, but it would most likely be like a 96-inch box. So
Okay.
that's an 8-foot box. Excuse me, a 9-foot box, and that would go in that raised planter, but the root ball would have that cut out in the garage as part of its
Right.
Mother Earth.
So you put the tree in and then you build the planter around
Correct.
it?
Yeah.
And that, again, is only 18 inches, Chris, so it's not
Below.
really much.
Right.
It's almost seat wall height.
Okay. Excuse me, last question. The little finger that's at the intersection there, is there anything happening in that zone?
This here, that's owned by the city, so no.
Okay.
We're not
That'll just
proposing
remain as.
anything there.
All right, I think that's all I have for questions.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Gary?
Utility questions. First off, have you thought about where the mechanical utilities or natural gas and water is going to go on this project?
As far as meters?
As far as meters?
Well, I thought that, did they not show on the civil, let's see.
I was kind of looking and well, tell me.
I'm pretty sure they're going to go along Coast Village Circle because that's where most of our utilities are coming in. So what does 29 say?
Water meter service connection.
Yeah, so they're right here. So you
Okay.
see on TN3.
All right. And was it going to be individually metered for each commercial unit, or were you going to have one site water for the commercial unit?
I think we have one for the
four.
restaurant, one for the first floor, and one for the second floor is the way we've got the meters set up.
And then for the residential?
Yeah, and then one for each residence.
Okay. And then more on utilities. I recently was speaking with the Southern California Edison. I was asking about transformers, and it's true that they are no longer allowing them to be underground.
That's actually the PUC. That's.
But what they did say that they do allow them to go into a section of the building if they have access to it. And so they do not always have to be on a pad or a transformer out front. So did you consider this in your design that it could go into the parking area? I noticed you also had an electrical room there already designed in. So
Well, yeah, we put the electrical room in so it was contiguous
with that
to
transformer.
the transformer.
Did you inquire if it's a possibility to have a transformer in the electrical room and giving access to SCE? for that transformer as opposed to having it at the street like that?
No, did not.
Okay, thanks.
Paul?
Follow up on that. Are all the bicycle parking required by planning department, or is that optional? It is.
They're required, yeah.
Okay. 'Cause actually, if you could move the transformer right to where you had the bike parking, we're making a trade-off for the landscaping and the view outside, but then you have to find a home for the bikes.
And these need to be covered, too.
Yeah.
So I'd have to create a covering there, and then, of course, that would be a structure in the setback, and I'd have to go back and get them wide.
It's commercial. Is there still
No, it's this zone has a 10-foot setback.
Going back, is there any change to the actual building height from the last time we saw the project? Only change would be is that you got rid of those two penthouse things.
Exactly, yeah.
I have no idea.
Otherwise, I think that we're at 27 feet is what we are at right now.
Okay, Stephanie? Questions?
Question about the planting in front of this wall. Are you confident that you can
Reduce the look and the height as shown in this elevation to be
Of that
reduced?
wall for
Yeah,
the ramp there?
And
Yeah.
scale, like
Yeah.
some planting in there to bring the.
Correct. You know, he didn't quite show all the planting that I'm proposing in front of that wall. We're not going to bury that wall completely because it is nice to see some of that sandstone peeking through, I think.
It is, but it's getting a little.
No, exactly. No, we'll definitely try and mitigate the height of that.
Yeah, you've got some pretty low
And,
plants
you
in
know,
there.
we could, you know, I'd be willing to study lowering that. I mean, what we did is obviously just maintain the single height from up at this level.
Right, the ramp is going down.
So we could conceivably step that. The main thing is just to make sure that, you know, we're going to want to have a secure gate so that people don't go down into the parking structure. That's really the most important thing there.
More questions?
I think that's it.
Were the electrical meters?
The electrical meters will be in that garage, in that utility room.
In that utility room?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The planner is here. No questions? Any more questions for the planner? Okay. Comments? Go ahead, Paul.
I'll jump in first. It's a great project. I actually saw it earlier, so nothing new for me. The one comment I'd like to see is that this one tree that you have proposed by the trash, to make this as big as possible, just because we have the existing structure, and to somehow anchor your view before we see that view. So if this is a different tree or a larger tree than the other ones you have in that little island, it's the only little minor tweak that I see. Other than that, it's a great project.
Thanks, Paul. Gary?
Yeah, I appreciate the removal of the upper deck, what I was calling doghouses earlier.
What's wrong with dog houses?
I was in the doghouse, having them there.
That's right. And I appreciate them being gone. There's no reason why you can't do it the way that you did it. It's very nice. One thing I would like to see, it does bother me when we have that many water meters and potential gas meters out on the street or against the building when you have a nice building like that. And when you have a design like you have with a subterranean garage, it leads itself to have a meter location for water and a meter location for gas. So I would recommend, and I hope the board would go along with me, to get a location in the garage against the wall or something that they can put a meter location for combined use. And I also would encourage the applicant to check with Southern California Edison to see if it's feasible to get that transformer located into the parking garage with access to Southern California Edison. And I think that would be of value considering we're marginalized on the amount of landscape, and any amount that we can get is a bonus. So I would encourage the applicant to look into that.
Is that it, Gary?
That's
Okay, Chris?
Okay, thank you. From the last time we saw this, I think there's some good improvements that have taken place. It's impressive how much landscaping you were able to get, considering it's all underground parking. So I applaud you for that. I think the discussion about the stone wall, the lowering of that, I think that could definitely take place. It looks, especially on the elevations, looks pretty large. I'm a little concerned about if you're really going to put a box size that large in there for the cypress, how that's going to work. So it might help to draw the box size in there. I guess I'm confused as you're putting the tree in and then you're building up. So are we putting soil on top of the box?
No, it will be temporarily retained, and then they'll build the wall and then remove that temporary restraint or retain it, and then fill that in.
So what size are you showing this planter as?
That is 9 feet.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like 8'9", something like that. But
that little L-shaped planter?
No, I'm sorry.
The
L-shaped planter is about 3.5 feet wide, maybe 4. And then the notch out of the garage below is that 8'9".
Okay.
Yeah, you've got in excess of 48 inches clear.
So 4 feet. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I can certainly develop that detail more, and in particular when the owner decides on which size he wants to put in there. But we, from the get-go, have always described it as at least a 60-inch or 72-inch.
Yeah, because we're losing a substantial
tree
there.
Yeah. And he wants something nice there to anchor that corner as well. So.
Okay, I think everything else looks fine.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
I think the project looks great, and for the comments that we've already made to the site wall along Coast Village Circle, if it can be reduced at all. And I think that landscaping, as much landscaping as possible along that Coast Village Circle, can only enhance the utilities that are going to be there.
Screen the utilities.
Yeah.
Okay. My comment was, I guess it's kind of a question. I asked about the electrical meters before. Where are the gas meters?
That was what I was looking for. I mean, these, of course, are in...
They're in ground.
In the ground. I mean, these are just little typical coverings, and I don't know where...
I can't read it.
I looked for it, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Because that is the thing, those are the things that are ugly, I agree.
And they can't go on the electrical.
Yeah, so I think that we'll try to find a place down in the garage for those. I'm surprised that they didn't end up on this plan.
So, okay, well,
So
we're gonna
figure
put
that
that
out.
in our motion more than likely, and I've got a few things that we brought up. Does somebody want to take a stab at a motion? This project is looking for a project design approval, or do you want me to read off what I have?
Float a motion.
I can read the comments that I have so far. Would be study screening or an alternative location for the electrical transformer, and provide a larger tree in front of the trash enclosure along the east elevation.
Can you add to screen the existing building?
To screen. I don't know if we want to necessarily screen the existing.
You want to screen this building.
Okay,
trust me.
then we want to screen the existing building to the south. Add that in there, Gloria. And to screen the trash enclosure. The Cassie would have done that. What was in there? What's in the Cassie? Let's see. It would be return with the locations and screening delineated for the gas meters, and study ways to lower the height of the sandstone wall along the Coast Village Circle elevation. That's what I would have if anybody would like to make that motion and thinks it's ready for design approval.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, seconded by Stephanie, first by Paul. Under discussion?
Discussion. Didn't
Not
you
you.
want? Well, yeah, I can comment on discussion.
Go
I'm entitled to do that.
Go ahead.
Didn't you want to start with great projects as the first comment?
I think at one point we were discouraged from
Oh,
stating our
all right.
opinions about projects, but
It just
this has
always
already
looks
gotten
so good when
this
it-
has already gotten planning commission approval. So is that just for a feather in your hat?
Well, it's always nice to see that in the list, you know.
Have to try.
Would the maker of the motion like to add that to the minutes? So Brian could go frame the minutes in his office. Okay, that got a no comment. So any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
so much.
What? Oh,
Full board.
It's just in the side. Yeah, I mean that's all it is in the sidewalk there. So.
I'd like to just state that before we continue on, would the maker of the motion feel that this project could return on full board or consent for final?
I'm actually all right with consent, but I want to make sure the other people of the board are aware
Can I
of
have
that.
everybody's attention? We've been asked by staff if we think that this project should return on full board or consent for final approval. And the maker of the motion wants everybody's opinion.
I actually
Can
am fine with it being on consent, but I wanted to make sure that the utility concerns and landscaping would be full board or consent.
I think from a landscape perspective, consent would be fine.
Okay.
Can we
So,
also-
so that's a,
We also should get some project compatibility analysis comments and a motion for
We actually
approval.
gave it project compatibility analysis in the sense that it went on to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission approved the project. So now it came back here just for refinement of a few issues.
Okay.
do you want to just restate in your motion that compatibility analysis findings are met?
I can restate that. Yes. Is that okay with the seconder? All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're on time. So Tony was right in the end of the day when he scheduled a half hour for that agenda item. Item number 3, 1820 De La Vina.
Chair Sherry? Hi.
Hi, Kelly, go ahead.
I'm just here to represent, I was the case planner for the project, and this project did go to Planning Commission on 2 occasions. On August 11th, there was an environmental hearing where the Planning Commission reviewed the draft mitigated negative declaration and made comments and listened to comments from the public. And then the project proceeded to Planning Commission again on September 22nd, where the Planning Commission approved a final mitigated negative declaration and a conditional use permit. Some of the comments that the commissioners made were regarding traffic impacts on the neighborhood and noise for some of the front units there on De La Vina, and also they were concerned with really preserving the oak tree in the front. So other than that, the applicant is returning today subsequent to Planning Commission, and they also want you to confirm the project compatibility analysis too.
And did we have any additional design comments specifically directed to ABR from the Planning Commission?
No, only, they were mostly just on the environmental review and the traffic and oak tree.
Okay. Do we only have one set of plants? Tony looks like he was searching for more plants. So,
We brought in extra sets if you want to slide them back.
are they the same exact
Yes.
plant? Wait, here he comes. Do you want to?
These ones are flat. It might help.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So the last time we saw this project was obviously before Planning Commission, and Jay was here, and the motion was. Oh. continue to provide a solution which does not require a glass screen or work with staff to consider options such as relocating the outdoor living space to avoid the necessity of a sound wall at the front of the building. That was the only comment that was carried forward.
we're done with, there's no glass screen anymore, so it's been eliminated from the project.
Okay. So go ahead, Jay.
Well, basically, we did go before Planning Commission on 2 occasions, and as Kelly mentioned, the architecture was viewed, I think very favorably. I think, Gary, you might have been at one of those hearings, I believe. Most of the conditions of approval related more to operational things and on-site parking management things that really didn't affect the physical architecture. As far as the elevations go, and we pretty much maintain them. I would say they're pretty much 95% the same as our last meeting with the. Well, I'll walk you through the site plan first, maybe. So, pretty much the site plan is pretty much the same as it was when we last met with you. We did meet per the Planning Commission with an arborist, and made sure that this tree is going to be protected, and we've incorporated any of his protective measures. It didn't really require changing the design, because the designer already sort of responded to his requested, mitigation methods as far as protecting the tree. We did eliminate the glass wall, so there is no glass screen wall. The acoustic report, now accepted, the findings that we wouldn't need it because I know that there was concern not to set a precedent to be putting, sort of glass screen walls or acoustical walls. So that's totally gone. We did, as far as, the landscaping, we've got more detailed plans that David can go through, but pretty much we maintained the circulation, parking, perimeter buffers. We made a few modifications to internal circulations that we no longer have to bring people down here to get out. We got both stairs coming down to this walkway, which is a better code solution, but it didn't really affect the architecture. One little change is there is an extra door over here now, which shows on I could show you on the front elevation. Actually, I think your board was encouraging more glass and some more doors or things in this little piece of wall anyway, so if anything, I think it worked. And that's just the exit stair there. Trying to get to the elevation. Let's see, 3.1. So that shows here there's a door there from the stair that's in the same style as the rest of the, more historic doors in the building with a little trellis over it as opposed to the door coming out the side. That's more a result of some code issues in terms of door swings, but pretty much if you look at this elevation with what you approved, we maintained everything we had talked about in terms of the gable ends, in terms of the details, the trellises, the stone wall. There is a small monument sign now that we're proposing in front that shows on the plan, with a little sort of trellis stone. We did incorporate to save all the existing stone walls as much as we could, or reuse the stone wall in areas where it needs to be rebuilt. That was one of the requests, I believe, that your commission made, and that is I think it's part of the conditions of approval also from Planning Commission. Pretty much craftsman-style building still using siding, shingle, and some accent of the existing stone. Here's the side elevation. This is pretty much more or less identical to what we had sort of worked with your board on in terms of diversifying it with some pop-outs. We went to a combination of both shed and gable dormers with the brackets underneath, trellises, siding. I think it's very, very much. And one nice thing is there's even a better rhythm. We got a little more diversity in the window sizes and window types. So we got some triple windows, double windows, some single windows, so we broke it up even a little further. I'm not even sure if that was a comment your board made, but we felt, the idea of having the scale of it, be less repetitive would be something you would like. These elevations where the parking is not changed. If anything, we were able to get these a little beefier, which I think, improved the scale of it. Before they were, we were forced to be a little narrow. We found a way to get them a little wider. Once again, pretty much identical, or very similar, if not identical, to what we had shown the board the last meeting we had with your group. Around the perimeter, it's a combination of some of the existing stone, and then there's both masonry and a wood fencing on top of it. That's a redwood fence with the chamfered top, and that's along the perimeter. And I do have all the. If you want to take a look, I can go to the detail sheets. Let me get there. 9. So, we're not asking for final, but we really want to study all these windows as we advance it. So we have all the different window types. Once again, I think it's consistent with the Craftsman style that we're looking for, the type of windows, type of doors with the mutton bar, a combination of the Dutch door look, and some of them are more, full glass panel doors. And then, in support of the elevations, we've developed more definitive details on all the brackets. I think, upon close examination, you'll see they have the meatingness and the weight that we need. We didn't want to end up with some details that didn't have the type of scale that we need for this style of architecture. So we have our eyebrow windows. These are our front porch details. We have our porch bracket details. All, 3 bifacias. And then these are just some of the typical window details here. Shows all the wood trim and headers, and that's shown on the elevation. So we're not just going with plain boards. We have pretty heavier duty trim pieces and apron boards under the windows, so they have a more authentic look under the sills, not just like we don't want it to look like an apartment. We want it to really look like a more bed and breakfast traditional look. I'll let David, you can maybe walk through some of the landscaping.
This isn't the latest plan.
Oh, this is not the latest plan?
Oh, it doesn't have the meandering walkway, does it?
Oh, wow, that's funny. Where is?
Or is it? That's what they
Let's go to that set now.
This is the one that.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the one that we have to review, but Tony, they made a change to the walkway that wasn't submitted to you. Is it okay to review that?
Yeah,
printed the wrong.
I think we just printed that wrong set. So let's show this one here. I apologize.
Is the landscape plan in there? I assume?
Yes,
Okay.
it should be. Let's hope it's the right one. No, it's the wrong landscape plan, David. All right, well, I guess we'll have to talk to the landscaping then. We have, this meandering path here, not a straight path. So we created pockets for, landscaping.
Yeah, we modified the pathway because I wanted to create more opportunities for, vertical trees along the south property line and mitigate any physical impact, visual impact of the buildings on the adjacent property. The rest of the landscape plan is pretty much consistent with what's been shown to date. Obviously, the focus is going to be maintaining and protecting the specimen oak tree. There was a time when we had shown, some flagstone on sand, sort of a patio space, but there was some concern about the impact that might have. So that's all gone. And now we just have drifts of native understory like heucheras and western sword ferns and Douglas iris and what have you there. There was...
You want to go to your landscape?
Yeah, let's go to ours. Where is it?
It's in the back here.
Okay. The rest of it is here. All right. Now here's the patio that's no longer there now. Kind of bummed.
Yeah, I don't know how that's got... Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so the Stenocarpus tree is the one that we like using to create some sort of vertical massing, and it's capable of being able to be planted in sort of small planters without fear of root invasion. So there's a pyrus flowering pear tree as an accent at the entry. Stenocarpus carries around. Back here, there's a trellis element, and we're showing on the new plan I actually have the plan at a smaller scale. Would this suffice for the moment? Here you can see the meandering walkway through here. So whereas we only had 3 trees here before, now we have 7. So, and these trees got to maybe 20, 25 feet high. So, and then we can plant vines on the fence. Stenocarpus carries around. And this trellis element here has sort of an outdoor patio, which was shown on our earlier plans with benches and what have you. And then there are small citrus trees, which the owner has wanted to have. And so that they would be in this location here. It's pretty straightforward. Here you can see the fact that the patio is gone. So it's just pretty much bark mulch and then drifts of native understory for the most part. That's the extent of it.
Yeah, and that patio came out mainly based on Bill Spiewak, the arborist, recommendations that we not have any activity under that portion of the tree.
Under the tree at all?
Under that under there.
That's the tree?
Right. That's the big oak tree.
The whole tree?
Yeah, he didn't want the little patio we had. Even though we were setting it in sand, he felt, play it safe, don't put that in there. So
I mean, it was still permeable and all, but so
that's a shame.
We just thought it'd be a nice space, but yeah. And now we've always had the trellis element, but now we've been able to plant vines. The primary vine throughout is going to be the Hardenbergia. Absolutely.
All right. Is that it for your presentation, Jerry?
Yeah, we can answer any
David?
questions.
Yes.
All right, we have one public speaker, Dawn, and your last name I can't read. Can you tell me what it is when you get up here so I don't butcher it?
Yes.
Hi.
It's Dawn Barnier,
Barnier.
B-A-R-N-I-E-R.
Okay.
I live directly across the street from the proposed project, and my main concern, and always has been, is basically with a project of this magnitude, is on-site parking. It's quite limited, in my opinion, with 13 employees, 3 shifts a day. There's 19 existing parking spaces designated. Out of the 19, 6 of them are going to be designated for compact cars and 2 for handicap. So for standard-sized vehicles, we really only have 11 parking spots. We have 13 employees coming on each shift, with also allied health professionals visiting. You're going to have therapists, visiting nurses, recreational therapists, pastors, and then, you're going to also have family, friends, and relatives coming to visit. So again, parking for me is an issue. There only leaves on-street parking left. If you look at all the other neighbors in the neighborhood, everybody has pretty much, back alley parking, maybe if they're lucky, a garage to park in, but at least 1 or 2 spaces designated per unit, where this one with 40 residents will have 11 conventional parking spots with 8 designated, which in my opinion is very, very high. The density is high for the amount of parking on the premises.
Okay.
And it doesn't show also that there's no turnaround on the property for vehicles that do deliveries. During the city council meeting, it was stipulated, I don't know if it was in writing, that all deliveries, and we're talking like Mission Linen, Giordano's, the Berryman, everything needed to run a facility because they have 3 meals a day that are going to be prepared. If the big trucks come and they can't, they will have to actually deliver curbside. And as you are aware, De La Vina is a one-way street with 2 lanes. So basically one of those lanes will be totally blocked off, or a portion thereof, with delivery trucks coming and going throughout the week.
All right. Is that it for your presentation?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Any more public comment on this project? And then you're going to have to state your name and fill out a speaker slip before you leave. Oh, wait, no. You already filled one out. So you were here before. Never mind. I saw you coming up. Who are you?
He's one of us.
Who are you? You didn't say anything earlier, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you were here. Okay, questions from the board. Chris, you have any questions?
A few questions. Let's see here. So, with the removal of the flagstone underneath the oak, was that where your open space is? Will that area be used at all?
No, we weren't allowed to count this in the required open space anyway because it's in the front yard. It's just like bonus space.
Got it.
I mean, I have to say, we would love to put them in there, but it wasn't the direction from the planning commission or the arborist. You know, maybe over time, you know,
Yeah.
we thought it would be a nice
Is that
little-
tree in decline? Is that why he's so hesitant, or just?
He's just being very conservative about it.
Okay. And then towards the back of the property, there's looks like a large transformer, at least judging from the small landscape plan here. Is there an ability to screen that at all, or is it screened?
It's already going to be set down very low relative to the adjacent property wall, so it's what we're actually doing is the driveway comes up over the top level and then actually sinks back down to create actually the vehicle turnaround the lady was talking to. So what that actually does is sets the level in this back zone down fairly low that gets the property wall up higher at that point. So it's almost totally fully screened from the adjacent property.
Right. Okay. I was actually considering screening it from this viewpoint for your guests.
We're a little limited.
Yeah, we were
as
less
amount of
concerned because it's
space.
mainly
Yeah.
this is mainly vehicular and staff and loading. So and, you know, the units are up high looking out. So.
Got it. And then I guess you just answered my other question about the turnaround, and
Yes.
this is that.
Yeah, and that was thoroughly discussed with the traffic consultant at the PC.
And what we've done is we've tried to drop the levels of the parking there so that you can get a tall vehicle in under the building to be able to make that maneuver.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Gary? Questions?
On the lighting, actually. Can you turn to the E page real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, it's
Probably way in the back.
Yeah.
E7 or
Yeah, E7's great.
alrighty.
So I was looking at this, and we don't have any corresponding numbers of what it has. And I was curious as to which light this is, which one you picked here for that light, and where it's at.
We're still
and
developing that selection. I mean, I thought we were here for.
what these lights were about.
I mean, what we're suggesting is we'd like to go with a Craftsman-like selection, not a Mediterranean look, and we're still trying to fine-tune exactly what that selection will be. I mean,
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at a set of submittals, and I'm looking at this, and also these don't correspond with the numbers on your page.
Oh, he's got the letters not corresponding with the fixture schedule.
The fixture schedule doesn't correspond with what you have here,
we'll
so
come
it's,
back.
it's confusing for me to
We'll come back with
look
a
at the
more
fixtures.
clarified thing. I apologize, Gary. We'll get that more cleared up with so
what
it's
you have.
easy for you to review.
Okay.
Is that it, Gary?
Yeah, that's it.
Paul? Thanks, Gary.
I noticed the word enclosed garage. Are these, do these have doors that
No.
actually close it up?
No, they're
It's
open.
just-
It's just like parking, more like
Okay.
a carport or just uncovered parking, I guess I'd call it.
And then it's a comment, so I'll wait. Never mind. That's it.
Stephanie?
Speak to the question of turnarounds and deliveries and how
Sure.
you think that that's going to occur.
It's on there. Did you see
Yeah,
it?
I'll show you what sheet it's on, Stephanie.
It's not on that sheet.
And this was reviewed. We had our traffic consultant and ourselves review this. I think it's on.
I see it here. The turnaround.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, one of the conditions of approval, and already I know the operator has spoken to a number of the vendors who have agreed that they'll only use smaller vans and not going to use the big trucks for deliveries. But we presented this, and this was, reviewed, at the PC level, as far as being able to bring a truck in and then, be able to make the on-site maneuver to get out. And we have the head clearance also.
And do you feel like the parking is adequate for the employees plus visitors?
I think it's more than adequate. I've done around 20 of these assisted living projects. This one's, as far as memory care, is probably overparked, in my opinion.
That's it for questions.
No question. I had just one at the risk of beating a dead horse. No DG under the oak tree either. Just DG.
No, you wouldn't do
You
that.
can't. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't put anything. Like you couldn't even.
No, bark mulch is, I mean, the ideal surface would be leaf litter from oak trees. That's it. Would you consider-
It's just such a nice
He was
place
out there with a
underneath that oak
microscope
tree.
looking at something.
You bring one, put it there, and you take it away when you leave.
You could do that.
You could do that. Okay. Good. That makes me feel better. Comment. Who wants to start?
I will.
Go ahead.
Overall, I think the project has nice detailing, and the craftsman style is appropriate for the neighborhood. There's something that bothers me that kind of stands out for me that I have a question. This front picture shows the plate heights a little lower in proportion than what is shown in the elevations. And this is kind of getting a little too tall with the, looks like raised plate heights above the plate, top plate. It's about 2 feet above the top plate. And it's looking a little tall here on this gable end. And it's really not in this elevation. It really only bothers me on this front street elevation the most, because these are getting a little tall. And if these could be either had some added these brackets details to bring that out, or
Stephanie, you
bring
want to point that out here? For
the on the street elevation.
right
either.
here. You're talking about right here, right?
Well,
We also might be able to raise the head height, Stephanie, a little, bring the windows up a little,
and
too.
the-
I think that would help.
And the other thing that bothers me is the overhang. Like, I really like the look of this house that is either in the neighborhood or on the property now. Not sure, but it just has a nicer scale and a little
A
heavier,
deeper overhang?
and a heavier kind of.
Yeah, I'm not
built
sure
to
how
it.
much
It's-
our, I think we made it 2 feet. It may not show. Let's look in the,
And 2 feet is generally fine, but for this 2-story structure, I think you could go a little, even a little wider than that.
little long, I mean, on the eaves.
Deeper, a little deeper.
I don't think there'd be a problem doing that. I mean, we could, is there a...
I mean, get a little more shadow there?
Yeah.
Like maybe go,
Yeah.
maybe go to like 30 inches? Would that be better, you think? 38 inches?
Yeah. It's
I
not
don't have a problem with going a little deeper to
Okay.
get more shadow on there. I think
those are
that-
my only comments.
Jay, let's just let Stephanie make her comments.
Oh,
and-
sorry.
It's all right, but thanks for agreeing.
I mean, I noticed it in the back too, where some of the plate heights are raised, where they're getting a little tall with the gable ends. But since they're in the back of the structure, they're not as important as these street elevations, I feel like. That's it.
I'm measuring up on the ceiling.
Thanks, Stephanie. Paul?
I actually didn't catch the comment about the plate heights in the windows. It's a valid thing that Stephanie brought to our attention, to your attention as the designer, to study and the relationship, the corbel, the head height of the window, and how much room you have happening over here, here, and in the front. I'll leave it at that point, is that it's a valid comment, and we'll study it. My one minor comment was the placement of your street sign, your monument sign. It should be closer to the walkway leading to the front door, or centered in that planter space. It seems too far off to one side, and it's such a minor issue. But in that drawing, it caught me off guard, thinking, why is it off to the side versus nearer to the walkway or centered in that planter? So that was the one design thing I wanted to do.
There's an utility there, that's why.
No?
So,
You don't have to give me an answer. I'm just saying it looks in the wrong spot. Looks like it's in the wrong spot.
That end, Delavina?
Yeah, Delavina is a one-way street going down.
So by the time you see the sign, you've already missed the building. And maybe you can see the other side of the sidewalk or the walkway. Just the placement of it looked odd.
Is that it? All right, Paul. Gary?
My only
comment would be to, as I spoke to about the lighting fixtures, I mean, the rest of it I think we've gone over quite well. It's kind of
been a long road for you. And I think it's ready to move along. But when you do get your final details, I would suggest on any of your exterior lighting fixtures that we stay away from designs that are like this. And I know that it looked to me like that was a fixture that you are using under the trellises or in areas of the trellises. And there's some other fixtures that I don't think are very Craftsman style that you've chosen to use. So clarify on the plans what those fixtures are and what you're planning on using so we can evaluate that. But just as a cursory prejudgment, I would say that that particular fixture doesn't seem to fit the architecture.
Thanks, Gary. Chris?
So, come up here for a moment. I think overall everything looks fine here. Two minor things. One was that transformer. I think you may see that from the street, but again, you see it from a lot of different areas from within the site. So if there's any way to put up a fence around it, maybe that would just help a little bit. It's minor.
We'll take a look.
And then the other thing I was looking at, sort of this zone right here. It seems that's far enough away from the oak that we could get maybe this type of planting on the other side. So you're kind of entering through, a similar...
Not tree, just the understory.
Just the understory.
Sure.
Yeah. That way we're not just staring at the corner of this building here, and it'll just help to provide a little foundation planting there.
Sure.
But other than that, I think everything looks fine.
All right, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think that I agree with the comments that were made. I agree with Stephanie's comment about the overhang in particular, and this building could even stand a 3-foot overhang, in my opinion. And I agree that the distance between the header and the plate height, with the corporal being up high, looks a little bit odd. So something needs to be done there, I think, about that little detail. And I noticed something on the window breakups. It's minor, but you have a horizontal breakup on, can you go back to the door and window schedule? Well, first, before you do that, we can just look at it right here, actually. It's this horizontal breakup here, and it's not that big of a deal because it's on the side of the building, but I prefer this breakup better, the vertical proportion. And where's the front elevation? Maybe you don't even have that horizontal breakup on the front elevation. You have all vertical breakups or square breakups, which is good. So if there's something you can do about that, I mean, it's so minor, but...
I don't know how that would be if it's divided into 3.
Yeah, it would be
the way
divided
to go,
into
so it's
3.
consistent.
So just to be consistent with the style. And then I noticed on your window detail, you have your windows pushed all the way to the exterior of the building, and they're not even sitting underneath. They're sitting under the very, where's that detail sheet?
9.
It's this one. They're sitting way out, not even really under. It would be much nicer to have a little bit more of a reveal on those windows. Is there some reason that you didn't do that, Jay?
I can give him an answer because at my grandmother's place we put knickknacks and stuff right there.
I'll take the word. No.
I mean, we could set the window back.
I think that would be
3 by 4,
nicer
I'd
to
say, get it. So
yeah,
we could get
just
that
a shadow line in there.
And I mean, normally when we do plaster, like more of the Mediterranean buildings, we will set it back and turn the plaster in. We're sometimes less concerned with the siding because the siding's protruding out and has all those, heavy trimmed out openings. But you're thinking we'd just set it back with a
I mean, we
2
can
by
do
4?
that to achieve a deeper reveal.
Like a 2 by
It
4
would
or
be
something.
nicer.
I mean, it comes with.
You wanted to do
waterproofing issues with siding. It's a little more. It's usually easier to do that with stucco than.
Is it proud of the siding, or
No.
is it proud of the...
No, it's in line with the...
It's like a nail-on.
It's a nail on.
It's nailed on.
It's
to
in
the,
line, but
To
then
the plywood.
you have the
to the
moldings.
shear,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have trim. You got siding and then trim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is that edge
What's traditional?
It was just a suggestion that if you could do it. To me, it's not a deal breaker to me. I think it would be a nicer project if you could do it.
I would, just look at all of the trim details one more time to make sure that they're
There's that elevation right there.
right there.
Trim everywhere, yeah.
Because this is only an inch from there.
I will say it will end up, my client is obsessed with moldings and trim, so we will be addressing absolutely.
We are too.
The heavier you can go and feel better on this scale of this Craftsman style. that you have.
I think he's telling you that your mic is not on if you're talking. You need to have your mic on. So about the monument sign, I don't, unless your letters are all proposed to be under 2 inches, I don't think the monument sign is included in this submittal at all, so we don't even need to talk about that right now, because that'll come up at sign committee. And so, the window recess is just a suggestion if you can do it. I feel more strongly about the deeper overhang and the distance between the header and the corbel plate transition. And that's all the comment I had. So I think we're kind of where Gary said we were, hopefully giving you project design approval. Does anybody feel that? Is anybody feeling that?
I'd like to make a motion for project design approval, returning it back to the full board for an in progress. And then to restate, yes, to restate that Kelly is the planner on this project.
No, no, that's not what we were restating.
To restate the project design compatibility analysis. So going over first the comments that were made by the board is the applicant, when going into the working drawing and working on the structural, to study the relationship between the window head heights and the corbel bracket detail that's happening on the gable elevations, and that the applicant is to study longer roof overhangs, 30 to 36 inches, provided it doesn't go into the side yard setback, but more than the zoning allows you to. This project is this is for project design approval of the landscape plan based upon what was discussed, which was a curved sidewalk with about 7 trees along the south elevation, and then it had no flagstone or active use under the oak tree. And then the project compatibility analysis, it blends in with the neighborhood. The detailing is wonderful, craftsman style, and compatible with the architectural character. It's the appropriate size, bulk, and scale, and it's saving the oak tree, and it's sensitive to the oak tree. And 2 other items. One was the study and bring to us the electrical cut sheets for the proposed lighting fixtures to be within the character of the house. I mean, the character of the structure. What are you pointing to? I don't know what that
Landscaping.
means.
The
Landscaping.
Sorry. At the front, that Chris made that statement.
And the transformer.
And provide landscaping at the front, but on each side of the driveway.
Lots of compatibility on the ground.
And screening the transformer. That's all for now.
And
Do we have a seconder before we go into this discussion? Second by Chris, under discussion? Hold on just 1 second.
Return back to a full board for an in-progress review.
Did you have a comment?
I'd like to add to the motion that to restudying the window detailing.
Restudy it or
Look for ways to create a deeper shadow line at the windows. That is in keeping with the historical character of
And
the
the
structure.
scale of the trim, and the scale of the trim, as well as the recess.
Okay.
And also under discussion to carry forward the oak tree protection measures from the Planning Commission resolution.
Thanks, Chris. And I'd like to add or just state for the record that the monument sign is not a part of this approval or project. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstains? Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yay! Congratulations. You made happy people happy today. It's our goal. Okay, we have item number 4, and
I
we're
really made it. I remembered
down,
that about 15 minutes
7
before I
minutes
showed up.
behind. Yeah, leave this one. So we're on to item 4, which is 1130 North Milpas Street.
I don't know what that is.
We did call you up.
I submitted. Do you have our plans? Are they right there? Roll.
We'll just talk about the project.
Okay. You want to read the
Let's
minutes?
just conceptualize. Yeah, just wait.
Introduce ourselves.
We don't even have minutes, so we can't talk about those
Go
either.
ahead.
This is the second concept review, and it's comments only. The project was last reviewed on February 21st. And thanks, Trish. It was a new item, and the motion was continued indefinitely with the following comments. This is, by the way, the Santa Barbara Bowl Foundation project. Regarding the county property, replace the chain link fence with wrought iron to match the existing. Additional bike parking in the existing parking lot is encouraged. Mitigate stormwater runoff despite paving requirements. Regarding the city property, the mods are technical in nature and pose no negative aesthetic impact. The board is overall comfortable with the site planning, mass, bulk, and scale. Reducing of the overall height of the building was encouraged, and further separation of barriers between the parking and pedestrian plaza is also encouraged to promote safety. Study the configuration of the existing retaining wall where it adjoins the sidewalk at Milpas Street. Study the street facade, specifically color material selection to relate to existing dryer administration building. And some board members felt that vehicular turnaround on Loena would be appropriate. So, all right, go.
I'm
Your name
Trish
for the
Allen
record.
with Suzanne Elledge, Planning and Permitting.
Steve Carter, Designer Architects.
Guillermo Gonzalez with Bernard Associates.
Before Steve gets started and how we responded to the comments, last time we were here in February, I think we were pretty close, or the board was relatively close to continuing this to Planning Commission with the, and going through the compatibility criteria that are up on the wall here. We had a couple things to bring back to you, so I just wanted to start out by saying we would like you to take that into consideration while we present the revisions to you. That our desire is to move on to the next level to Planning Commission and then come back to you to work out, the final details of the project.
Okay. Thanks, Trish.
Okay, so we'll just go through and talk about the revisions.
Do you want to go one by one? Steve, do you have a copy of this?
I
We kind of can give you yours back.
No, that's okay. We have it. But let me hit it as we go through
Go
each
ahead.
page, and I think we can address everything. Number one, fire department has required that we remove the green roof from the building. They've required that we remove the green screen and the planting on the trellis. So as you look through the drawings, that's been
Because of
taken.
high fire?
Because of high fire.
Even a trellis?
That's what they said. So.
Tell them what you did.
Tell them what you did.
He did a code alternate, or
Yeah,
did
we-
went
yeah, we
through
submitted-
the process, a formal process with the fire department.
They denied you?
Mm-hmm. So this is for a concrete building. It's buried in the ground. So they also required that these canopy trees along this edge, we had to change those out to, we replaced them with queen palms. They did not want canopy trees on that edge. So clearance requirements was the problems. We did come back and add bollards across this area for the concerns for separation from the cars potentially jumping the curb and getting into the plaza.
Can you actually move that microphone closer to your mouth? Thanks.
We added a cul-de-sac as discussed at the termination of Luena Drive. We have a sidewalk also added as required by the planning department. Stone retaining wall forming a guardrail at this edge, and then it's probably, it's in the 8-foot range at this area to hold a gate that we have that'll close across there. We've provided a lower retaining wall so we can keep this retaining wall height below 8 feet, so it'll step as it goes down. And I think that's what's the changes are on. Floor plan wise and sections, one of the requirements was request was to lower the building height. So it was 15 foot 4 inches before. We lowered it to 2 feet 4 inches to 13 feet. There was as this grade slopes, so we have 13 feet at this end, this remains 12 foot tall. There's a grade drop of 1.5 feet from here to here. So we end up at the tallest part being 14 foot 6 inches at that corner. And again, on this, we, have removed, the green roof off the drawings. Elevation-wise, again, these reflect our lower building heights. From the, our street view, we have, the existing stone wall. Most of the building is buried. There's landscaping in front of it. So this is the restroom wall, which is closer, and then the building itself is further back from the street. There was a comment regarding the height of the existing wall. It's currently 5 foot 3 inches tall. We would prefer to keep that height. I think we can see around the corner. I haven't heard of any problems with that issue in the past, but more importantly, it makes it a taller wall to hopefully keep the kids from getting up on the walls and getting into, on top of the roofs of the structure since it's buried in the ground. We did add, where we had our green screens before here, we added precast concrete planter boxes to get, some planting along the building. And this wall, the existing wall that we're rebuilding, as it turns into the property, we've pulled that out away from the building so we can get a little bit of landscape strip between that wall and the building. In regards to the existing building, we're matching it with color only. So we'll have all these 3 elements being the same color. And we're trying to keep our building as just a background type building, not real showy, where we're transitioning from the cut sandstone going through plaster, and then we have our boulder stone that's been used throughout the rest of the bowl. And then the building elements for up above have been brought down into that building through the tube steel trellis and just the design elements of that building. And did a rendering dropping the scale of the building. And then we have landscape. Do you want to address anything on that, Guillermo, in particular?
Well, we just made some adjustments to address some of the issues that Steve was mentioning, like removing the green roof, and we replaced the cottonwood, the trees along the edge, with palms. There are 2 existing palms, so try to continue that, and added some additional oak trees. Otherwise, it's the same plan we had before.
All right.
So I think that's...
How about did you go over the chain link fence replacement with wrought iron?
The chain link fence was...
right there.
That, it was along our property line before.
And now you're doing wall.
We've added, since we've added the cul-de-sac, we need retaining wall, and so we'll have stone wall in its place. The bicycle parking, as we discussed last time, we'd like to keep that flexible depending upon how big the show is. So, we'll definitely have one row along here. We can potentially, if these are barriers, increase the area and or run it up this way, depending on, how that ends up working out best for the bowl. And stormwater runoff, we will work with our civil engineer and the county on addressing that issue.
Okay. Is that it, Steve?
I think so. I think we've covered.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this project? I don't have any public speaker slips.
I think the turnaround has been...
You need to come up here, though, so people can... because nobody can hear you. I can, but nobody else can. So.
I'm in favor of the project.
Okay.
It looks like the turnaround has been enlarged correctly from what I, and you said there's 2 retaining walls there? What's that all about?
The retaining wall is along the existing edge of the road comes through here.
That's right.
And so as we expand into the Bowles property where it drops down the hill, we have to put a new retaining wall in. So the retaining wall pushes out to give us more room. This is sized so a standard car can make a U-turn at the end of it.
And then a regular type delivery truck?
A truck can do a 3-point turn to get around the corner.
All right, thanks. And then hand that to...
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Anybody else want to speak on this project? Seeing none, I will return to the board for questions. Anybody have questions? Chris, do you have any questions?
I guess just one quick question. Was there an oak mitigation requirement at all for this?
Correct. And right now we're showing 24 hooks, and so we have to comply with that. So all the trees on the hill plus the trees on.
So those are all required. Correct. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Gary?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Stephanie?
This retaining wall is, you said 8 feet along the whole length of it?
This retaining wall. Point over here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just at the area where the gate is.
Okay.
It'll be tall, and then the whole thing will slope down. So, along the sidewalk in this area, we'll try to be at 42 inches.
Okay.
And then, the top will remain level, and it gains a couple feet at the end, probably to 5 feet high, where it meets a chain link fence that runs along the property line.
Thank you.
Can I make a point on that?
Really quick.
Just to remind the board that this is technically a front yard, and that is triggering a zoning mod. You made comments on our zoning mod last time, but it wasn't, as tall as it is now to accommodate the cul-de-sac turnaround. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thanks, Trish. Okay, comments. Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. First, the queen palms were called out as what before?
Before we have cottonwoods, we have a couple of
Okay. So I guess my comment is that the queen palms are not appropriate for this site. Everything else we have is basically native, and we're trying to...
There is a Mexican palm, and then there is a king palm right on the edge.
Right. So, a palm here or there is okay, but a whole big line of them just doesn't seem to fit the character of the site. So I don't know if that's a conversation again with the fire department in terms of raising the canopy of a different tree or what, but to me it doesn't seem to fit, and I would ask the board for their opinion as well. Other than that, everything to me looks good. The oak trees as shown on the landscape plan are in this little knoll area are a little different than what's shown on the architectural site plan, and so I just want to try to avoid any kind of grid, these trees being planted on a grid, and to have them planted in a more natural fashion.
Okay.
Minor comment, but my main concern, I think, of those palm trees that don't seem to fit. That's it.
Thanks, Chris. Gary?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I don't feel that our comments were completely addressed about the materiality, and I think that the building is still not the character that we're looking, that I think that is Santa Barbara, and this is the Santa Barbara Bowl, and I think that some of the styles that are chosen, the roofing material and the geometry of it, I believe we discussed this at last time, and we thought that some of the character of this building, or some of the character of the if we look at some of the modern design that we have on it, we're using materials like wood, and we're using a lot of natural stone, and combined with some elements of steel, and which I think these characters are a new Santa Barbara, a new trend, but I think the trend that's with this new design, I think is too geometric, and I believe that we talked about that, and I believe that we talked about it bringing back more into the Dreyer building and take elements of the Dreyer building. So the roof element, I think, is with the green roof missing now. I think that this plated aluminum.
It's back there.
It's back there, but this is it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this plated aluminum. Yeah, but you'll see it as you're driving down.
This is essentially a clear story that has skylight, that has louver blades on it.
Louvered blades on it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that this element here, I think that this element here and this geometry right here, I don't think that this is something that is indicative of Santa Barbara, something that we think about going to the Santa Barbara Bowl. And I was opposed to this project last time because of that, and I just want to state my strong opinion that I think that this is not what we want as the entrance to the Santa Barbara Bowl.
Is that it, Gary?
Yes.
Thanks, Gary. Oh.
I'll follow through on that. It's interesting that you kind of did what we asked for, but I think in some respects it. I agree with Gary in the sense that this building doesn't match the character of the Dreyer building, and the building elements that are found in this proposed structure aren't found elsewhere on the Bowl property. I have a hard time introducing this new building material type onto this campus when the campus has already a well-established vernacular that everyone has an association with. So my direction would be to have a different style roof on it and have different building materials. So I can't support the structure as it is presented today. All the other issues having to go with the planning department I can support, but the actual character of the structure, the building, I can't support. if you end up going this direction, I think actually lowering this thing by 2 feet did this a disservice, because you look at the relationship of this building to that building, and now you get to see how diminutive it was when this was 2 feet higher and this little screen was higher. This sun screen, it had more stature of itself. Now it's gotten to be basically a forgotten trailer off to the side that's just gotten made to be permitted. So the architectural character, and this is just a subjective thing from where I'm sitting as an architect, I don't think that this building as designed belongs with that roof shape on this campus.
Thanks, Paul. Stephanie?
Well, I somewhat agree, but not as strongly as my other board members feel about. I think you're pretty close. I like to getting there for me. I like the fact that the scale of the wall has been brought down. I'm not crazy about that aluminum pop-up, and I think it could be looked at or changed to be some sort of alternative roof, or sloping roof would be better. I don't think I'm fine with the materials as they are shown. Maybe look at the windows or something in relationship to the dryer building and proportion and scale, that sort of thing. But I like the deep overhanging trellis on that walkway as a shade element a lot.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate the height of the building being reduced. That was my comment before, because of just the scale of it, just making it look like a one-story building, which it is. I feel a little differently about the materiality, even though the property doesn't have a lot, or maybe any, plaster walls. I don't necessarily feel that the plaster walls are inappropriate. However, I was looking for ways of introducing more sandstone, because I really like the sandstone, but I found myself looking at these elements around the front and just thinking that sandstone is entirely inappropriate for this cantilevered portion, and it's inappropriate if the signage, which appears to be located correctly, is going to be on this wall, that sandstone would interfere with that. So I was having a hard time with where to introduce more sandstone. If there was an element that could stand on its own as a different sculptural element that was conducive to sandstone, it would be an opportunity to introduce that. If there would be a way you could incorporate that, you might be able to sway some. If the vote goes that way, then you might be able to look at that. But the contemporary nature of this building doesn't bother me as symbolic of, or not symbolic of, Santa Barbara architecture. But that's just my opinion. So I don't have anything else to say. I think it's a really nice project, and I like the fact that the dryer building stands by itself and it's being maintained, and there you go. So where are we with this project? We are at still comments only, right, Tony? So that's what we're going to make, is comments only with an indefinite continuance, or a 2-week continuance, or because that's all we can do. So does anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
Can I remind the board of our request? I mean, I hear there are 2 board members strongly against the architectural style of the building, but is that significant to the degree that there's no consideration for the compatibility criteria needed to move on to the Planning Commission.
It probably is a big contributing factor to the compatibility analysis, because item number 2 has to do with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood, and both board members who expressed concern about it stated specifically that they didn't think it was appropriate. So I would say that right now it depends on who makes the motion and how the motion goes.
Thank you.
So would anybody like to throw a motion out on the table?
Well, if I'm to throw a motion out, it is to redesign the building to be less contemporary, incorporating more of the building forms that are found elsewhere on the property. And I don't know if there's enough votes to support that, but it would be an indefinite continuance back to full board.
Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I would second that.
Seconded by Gary. Under discussion?
I don't like the wording of the contemporary styling of the building. I really like it. I would talk to more the compatibility to the neighborhood, perhaps, in your motion.
Under discussion, I think that's where we're divided.
Yeah.
I mean, if it had a pitched roof and they still stayed with these materials, maybe I'd be more inclined to like it.
And right, but that's not necessarily a style.
Well, the pitched roof is what's seen from the street, and it's, it has to do with the elevation. This is all under discussion. It's what we see here.
This is a street view.
This is the street view. You have this one that's here. This is going perpendicular, but there still can be a village of concept. If there was a tie-in besides just color only, but if this roof material was on that building, and this building had maybe an asymmetrical slope, so it was like 12 feet on one side and 5 feet on the back side, and it had, there's a way that the building the form can be enhanced.
I think the question that Stephanie asked is, are you comfortable changing the wording of the motion? And I'm hearing you say no.
No.
So there's your answer.
Okay.
You don't have to vote for it.
Okay.
Anything else under discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That motion failed. Would anybody like to make another motion? We could just sit here all night.
Okay. I'm trying
We
to.
just might do that.
I'm trying to.
Anybody else can make another motion.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to.
We know what motion failed.
I'm just. Indefinite continuance?
We have to make comments that give the applicant direction.
Yeah.
It can be a motion that somebody feels strongly about themselves and see how everybody else feels about it. That's what Paul did, and that's what Gary did.
Okay, you want to go? You want to
I'll give it a shot. I'm not an architect, but it seems to me that, I'll make a motion for indefinite continuance back to the full board with the following comments, that the applicant is to study additional methods of changing the building to be more in compatibility with the existing dryer building, whether it be incorporation of different material. I think we basically, you've given us a color, I think, and other than that, we don't have anything from this other building. So it'd be to incorporate additional material and/or color choices from elsewhere on the site and within the neighborhood. Did that make any sense?
Thanks, Chris. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Second. But I will.
Under discussion, there was one comment about the Queen Palms not being
Yeah.
appropriate for this project that
yeah.
maker of the motion might want to add.
And the oaks in a non-regular pattern.
And an irregular pattern for the oaks. Those two items.
I'm fine
Yeah.
with the addition of those.
Okay. So any more discussion?
We talked about the building elements, perhaps. I think we want to strongly emphasize the roof elements as needing study on this project for compatibility. And that's all I'd like to add.
So would the maker of the motion want to add that the roof elements need to be restudied to the motion?
I think that's fine. I think actually I'd add, when I say materials, and I would say add and forms, so that may address that comment.
So how's that comment going to read?
So applicant is to study
That's
applicant to study the possibility of utilizing various materials and/or forms from the site or the surrounding neighborhood.
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
I'll say aye.
Okay, opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, and I'm abstaining. So you have 3, 1, and 2. Motion carries.
Can I ask a question about the process and the motion and, you know,
Yeah,
the-
really,
the
really quick,
board's-
because we're way behind now.
But we're basically back where we were in February. We understand that we did not completely, you know, address the direction given in terms of bringing more elements of the dryer building into the box office building. However, if you look at the other, I'm all about schedule. So I want to ask a question. Would it be possible to work out those architectural details, finishes, materials, the roof elements, after we come back from Planning Commission? It is design and its architecture. Would the board be comfortable with that?
I think it's up to you, because the comments that you get from
That's right.
the board are going to be carried over to Planning Commission if you
We
want
would have
those
to
comments.
explain that to the commission. We did not satisfy the ABR in terms of materiality. So that item in terms of compatibility is one of a list of 6 of compatibility criteria. So I'm interested to know, can we move forward with sort of a division on number 2 and a discussion with the board that we've satisfied if
I don't
we
know.
have
I don't
the
know
other
if staff
items.
will allow you to go to Planning Commission without making a compatibility analysis.
Well, you say you're not. You say you can't make number 2, but you maybe can make the other ones. It's just I don't know either, Dawn. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's just a suggestion to keep us
I
on
think that-
schedule.
that there's serious issues with the number 2.
Okay,
It's number 2 and number 4 because it's sensitivity to adjacent landmarks and historical resources.
that's not a. It's not a landmark
You
or
also
a resource.
let me
I'm sorry,
just
it isn't.
Let me just state that there's 2 board members that are not here.
I understand.
They are going to have other opinions. The wording on the motion was study the roof elements and study ways of incorporating the materiality from the dryer building, all those words. So I want to point that out.
I understand.
That minus 2 board members here, but if the board members aren't here the next time, and then you get the same board members, then you haven't done anything, and you may get the same vote. So
I don't think their
So anyway.
attendance would have made a difference today, to be quite honest.
Okay, well, that's your
where
opinion.
they were at.
Okay.
But I think the question was, would staff allow that to
I don't
to
know.
move on?
You'll have to ask staff. Okay, we need to move on to, sorry, Trish. I just need to move on because we're way behind. Yeah, I understand. Number 5 is 3707 State Street. And We're 12 minutes behind, or a little more than that.
Well, then let's catch up.
That's a great idea. On a positive note, the last time we saw this project was the second concept review. This project is coming here today for final review. We gave it project design approval with no comments. So here we are. We're at final approval level. And your name for the record.
I'm Deborah Kerr with Kerr Project Services, here on behalf of Chick-fil-A.
Go ahead.
Okay. The last time we met, we had our concept review with a couple of items that were that the board wanted us to study further and come back with in our final presentation. And those included a couple of details. The wrought iron detail that's on the building elevation, you asked that we take a look at that again. We have, it's a big circle. We've looked at the double wrought iron, but we've ended up with an inch diameter wrought iron that's twisted that will be replacing the where the Burger King signs are on the front of the building. So do you want to see the building?
Yeah, we do.
As part of this?
We want to see the whole project.
There's a lot more sheets in this set. So this is the building elevation that fronts State Street. And so the this detail is intended to replace where the existing Burger King signs are on the face of the building. That's supposed to be 1 inch. It's color. Perspective. Okay.
Yeah, this is the final approval, so I need you to go through all the details.
Go through everything first.
Yeah,
Okay.
like just show us the details so everybody can feel comfortable with them, and show us the colors and.
Okay. Then the next item that we wanted to make sure we addressed was the screening of the backflow preventer in the front. There's the landscape plan. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So we have our backflow preventer in the front, and we're using a flax to screen it. Here's the landscape architect's rendering of what that screening detail will look like. Staying on this plan, there was also a comment about the material for the patio finish, and we're proposing an exposed aggregate finish for the patio materials. And the light fixture.
Is that different than this exposed aggregate finish?
It's more of it's a darker brown. It's
So
more-
where are the two different ones?
No, this is in lieu of that.
So this is incorrect.
So this is a replacement.
So we can cross this one out.
Yes.
Is there anything else that's not correct about this?
No.
Okay, good.
On the light fixture, the previously presented light fixture was this one. The board asked that we look at something a little more simple in nature, and this is the replacement fixture that's proposed. It has to be ADA compatible, so we need a tall, flat fixture up against the building, and that's what we're going to propose for that.
Did everybody see this light fixture that's being proposed? Okay. I don't know exactly. Where are those light fixtures?
Here on the front of the building. In several locations at the entries. Some of the columns. Another question that the board had asked us to take a look at was was it possible to put a pedestrian access at this front area of the parking lot because of grade changes and limitation on existing conditions in this parking lot? We couldn't fit a sidewalk and work with the overhang and the ADA accessibility. And looking at this, the access here is a natural entrance into the building, and so for customers walking, I don't think these parking spaces are really truly any further than any of the other parking spaces. I think we've got good access around the property, so we weren't able to add a second access there.
Excuse me for 1 second. Tony, she's making reference to all these comments that we made, but I'm looking at no comments on the last approval and that everything was addressed, but our minutes say indefinite continuance with comments. So I'm not, and then there's nothing. There's no comments. So do you have something else?
Yeah, here you go.
Well, I'm going off of Tony's email to me.
The black, and then the red is her responses.
Oh, good. Now we can follow you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was talking in a vacuum?
No, we're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, keep going.
What is she talking about? Okay. And let's see. There was on the previous plan, there was a patio wall that turned out towards the street. The board recommended we remove it, which we've done. And then there was concern about the formium, and we've replaced the bronze baby with apricot queen on the landscape plan.
Can you go to the site plan real fast and show us that one site wall that got removed?
Mm-hmm. It returned here out to
And
the
that was an
street.
existing site wall that you're just choosing
No,
to
it
remove?
it was playing off what's existing, but
Oh,
we were building new.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you removed it.
And now we've removed it. The entire wall now is new from what it was previously. So we were just following that out to the street like it was before, and as you guys brought to our attention, it didn't make sense, so we removed it.
Okay. And then the other comment was the corner window.
And the corner window,
Determine whether it should be a spandrel or a recessed plaster
and
condition.
it's plaster. It was a storefront window that's being filled in.
Should show us in the floor plan first. Because it wasn't really shown in elevation.
It was actually right here. And this is several plans. That's not going to help you. It was right here. There's a multi-purpose room, and this was showing as a storefront previously on the
now it's a
elevations.
plaster wall?
And now it's a plaster wall.
All right, maybe we should take a look at the details. the detail sheet, which is going to be maybe back here. The roof equipment is hidden, right?
It is. We have a
Yeah,
section that shows that.
I think we saw that.
And we've
before.
measured, I think we've talked about that in previous meetings. We have been on the roof to measure the exact height.
Let's keep going through the detail sheet a little bit, going through some of the details. That'd be a good idea for everybody.
And these are details of there's currently no trellis over the patio. There had been previously. We're bringing it back.
Somewhere, as well as
There's a structural plan.
keep on going through the plans.
Okay.
And get to the structural.
Okay, because it's actually behind this. But this is the metal gate detail for the gate on the service yard entry doors. Another trellis detail. And talked about the wrought iron medallion, or the medallion with the wrought iron. It's supposed to be 1 inch twisted metal. This is wrought iron. And here's our HVAC. Electrical site plan.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Do we have any public speakers for this project? None? Okay, I'll bring it back to board for questions. Stephanie, do you have any questions?
The height of those light fixtures as top at 7, why is that the maximum, you said?
Well, no, the
I know the ADA is 6 feet 8 inches, isn't it, for clearance underneath?
Right.
For walking
Right.
head clearance.
And-
Is there a
and
reason
so
why you couldn't
other-
raise light fixtures higher?
well, I think we were just looking at getting the light, proper light to the patio area and for pedestrians. If they go too high, then we start to lose their impact on the ground.
6 inch here.
Any more questions, Stephanie?
That's it.
Okay. Any questions, Paul?
No, I just wanted to see, verify that.
Okay. Which finish is selected?
It's not. That's not the light fixture, by the way.
Oh, it's not?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That's the old
That
one.
was what I was
The
given.
other one. It's. That's why I pointed that out to everybody. This is the one.
Oh.
This is the one that the board did not want us to
We
use.
thought it was not appropriate to the
Right.
architecture.
Right.
I think. That's we
And
said.
what
Paul,
is
do you
this
have any-
finish?
Okay. Go ahead. What's that finish?
My architect picked it out. Sorry.
You're a little lost. I think we can see.
No, just it's a
Let's see. If we can.
there's 3 finishes. There's in that's in glass.
That's a glass color.
It's a burnished steel. Or stone glass.
Burnished steel. Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any
Thank
more
you.
questions?
That was it. Thank you.
Paul.
No questions.
Gary? Chris? Comments? Anybody want to
I
start?
can make a comment.
Go ahead.
The trellis area, I'm just zooming in on that. It says paint 103, which is right here, is a Sherwin-Williams. Sometimes we like to see a solid body stain versus an actual paint, because then you get a little of the texture of the lumber that comes through. It's a glulam beam, and you have a little bit of the buzzsaw to it. So glulam probably because of the span that the structural engineering is confident for. But it would be nicer if that was a solid sawn materials, because over time it does stuff. It checks and opens up and things like that. So it's a comment to say that if you can make that as a solid sawn member, but I'm not going to make that a requirement. It was just more of a really fine-tuning aesthetic, but it would be nice to see if that was a solid body stain or a semi-solid stain versus a paint.
Is that it, Paul?
That's all.
Gary?
I would still feel that the fixtures are inappropriate to the architecture.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Light fixtures.
Chris? Oh, I don't know where that is.
That's
I
somewhere in the
think it
middle.
was up here more.
There you go. No, a couple more pages.
It wasn't where we
Here we go.
used to see them.
Irrigation.
Okay.
I'll start again with a quick question. Is there any reason this tree cannot go somewhere in this zone?
Not at all.
Okay, because there was some neighborhood outcry about the loss of that
The cassia.
tree, and some were concerned that we're putting replacement too far back on the site. So if we can maybe relocate this one a little further, I guess this is your sign, is that right?
No, that's actually the backflow preventer. So we just need to make sure we clear of any underground
Okay.
piping.
Okay, so somewhere to move, that would be my comment, is to move the cassia into the front yard.
Okay.
Is that your fire backflow right here?
It is.
And then that's your irrigation backflow?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that it, Chris?
There was one other thing. Oh, yes, there's the vine that's called out for this arbor. It's a very aggressive vine, the cat's claw. So I would recommend choosing a different vine for that front because you're going to battle that constantly.
Okay.
Very aggressive. That's all.
Okay. Stephanie?
You said I like the door. Do you like the
Mechanical equipment doors that you've done, custom? Or custom doors for whatever this area is?
It's for the service.
I would agree that the light fixtures are inappropriate. And that's it.
Thanks. I had one question about the drive-through window head. Where is that again? There's a detail for a plaster molding around a new drive-through window. If you look at this detail, you have a plaster band at the head and the jamb, and it doesn't show up on here. Is this the only window that you're replacing? The other ones they don't have plaster bands, right?
No.
So, because this
It's just,
concerns me.
this has just been fitted to put that movable window into an existing condition. So I think to thicken this, they use the jamb around the perimeter.
And you have a typical window and door head and jamb at an exterior condition, but are there other doors and windows? Is there any other place where this detail 6 and 7 is besides this location? That's what I was looking
No,
for.
because it's a unique condition with that special operable window.
Then I would say that I don't think that's appropriate. It doesn't show up here anyway. Am I missing something? But
I haven't followed it.
just this, there's a plaster band around that window
On all four sides?
on
just
on
the top.
head and the jamb, or
The head and the
yeah,
jamb,
and I
or just the
don't-
head?
Anyway, that's my comment. That's my only comment.
Again, this is something we've done to try and retrofit the building because we can't change anything.
Now, why is it that you need?
It's facing the rear of the
It's not
building.
facing the rear of the building.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's
Oh,
facing
yeah, it
the
is.
rear of the lot.
But okay,
It's
so
a
here's
creek.
my question: why do you need to do it for the retrofit condition? Why do you need these? Why do you need to bump it out like that? Why can't the plaster just come down, and then the window be recessed, just a small, bullnose back end? Why does it need to have that?
I'm just looking for the blocking and the drip line and all that. If you want this flush, I'm sure we can. either make this thicker if this needs to be out like that, or we can pull this in.
Okay, I get it. Okay, my comment is to eliminate that
You just want it
plaster
flush.
surround. Yeah.
Okay.
To make it more like all of these. Like these.
I would say that the jam side, that if anything's going to get hit by the car's side mirror, it's going to be this corner right here. Some guy is too close.
That's
That's
Okay, so this project would like to receive final approval. I have a couple of concerns. I have a concern about replacing the color of the trellis with a dark brown opaque stain. I have a concern about the light fixture still that I'm hearing. I have a comment to move the cassia tree forward more into the front yard. And I have a comment from Chris about choosing a less aggressive vine over the trellis. Does anybody feel that we could condition the project and still give it final approval with those comments? How's everybody feeling about that?
I do.
Okay, I'm open to a motion.
Go for
I made it easy for you. I
Okay.
stated all the things that Gloria
Exactly.
already
I
wrote
wrote them down this time.
Oh, good. Okay.
I make a motion that the project is approved or go forward to consent with the following.
So this is a continuance, not a final
Continuance.
approval.
It's continued to consent. For is that how I word it?
Well,
Yeah.
you can give it final approval with those
Final
conditions.
approval with the
It's-
following conditions.
You could do a final approval of the project with some details to return to
To
consent.
return to consent.
Okay.
With the
that's a-
following comments, or to look at the vine over the trellis, moving the cassia tree to the front yard, the light, an alternative light fixture, and please bring the finishes as well as the photograph of the light fixture selected. Eliminate the plaster head and jam at the drive-through window, and the color of the trellis stain should be a semi-transparent stain instead of a opaque paint.
That was a final approval with some details to return on
Yes.
consent. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll make the second. And I have a question having to do about the light fixture, in the sense that how many, like a semi-straw vote, how many people are concerned with the light fixture, and if they are concerned, if we can give the applicant more stronger direction. And I bring reference to the Panera Bread, where we had a discussion about the light fixture, and at the end of the day, it became more of a thematic light fixture for the corporate image versus, I hate to say what was appropriate for the building. So we can have a mild discussion for the benefit of the applicant and the consent reviewer. And what we're looking for.
I think that's a good idea. What are we looking
I
for?
remember for Panera Bread, we talked about a down lighting instead of both up and down. And they had a concern about ADA accessibility underneath, but it seems like you have plenty of room to move around underneath light fixtures, especially if they're downlit fixtures. There's plenty of wall space and wall height.
About this fixture, what do people not like about it? What would they like to see that's different? They started with this, they went to that. What's the next transition? Or is it just...
I made the electrical comment, and my direction on this was that I didn't really think that this style of light fixture that I have, I think it doesn't really meet the architecture of the building, meaning that the vernacular of this fixture seems to be a tad too modern for the vernacular of the building. And I think something that's a little bit more appropriate, we're using wrought iron on the outside of the building, we're using some stamped steel on the outside of the building, and I think something that would be a little bit more appropriate to that vernacular rather than these clean line modern design light fixture would be the direction that I would suggest that you go with the lighting fixture.
How many board members feel that the contemporary nature of the light fixture is inappropriate? With a raise of hands. 3. Okay, so I think the comment could be choose a more traditional light fixture.
Does the applicant understand the conversation?
I know, absolutely.
Okay,
And
perfect.
I've had the same discussion with the architect every time I've left this board, and I cannot get them off this type
Those
of design.
architects, they never listen to you, do they?
It has nothing to do with corporate image. It just has to do with what he sees as a vision.
So maybe he'll get that comment.
So the
3
wrought
board
iron
members
helps because something along the lines of using that as a material will at least give me an opportunity to force the discussion appropriately.
I think the comment's going to be returned with a more traditional light fixture appropriate to the style of architecture presented. And any
that's been the
more,
comment every time. And here I am, the messenger.
Third time's a charm. So,
Madam Chair,
any more
I have-
discussion?
Yeah, a few more discussion items. When the landscape comes back, we'll need irrigation and planting details, along with the water compliance statement on the irrigation.
That's all part of our package.
That will be, okay.
It is part of our package
Oh,
now.
I didn't see the compliance statement anywhere, or the details for the planting
That
and
was all
irrigation.
that was all included in our application. I've got an extra copy.
I think the compliance needs to go on the plans. doesn't it?
Yeah, and as do the details.
So the
So when you come back to
comment
consent, the comment would be
to
include,
return with the compliance statement and the details for the landscaping.
the irrigation and planting details on the plans.
Did you get that, Gloria? Any more discussion?
So I can just get clarification because we have the irrigation plan, but
There's no
so you're
details.
looking for construction drawings, really.
Yeah,
Okay, for
that's
final.
what you need for final, technically, even though you got final with those comments today, right?
Well, it's ready for final at
Oh,
consent.
did we say that we're not giving it final then?
No, it
It's
can be
ready.
a final of the project so they can submit the building in safety
We're
and
letting them
still have
submit
the
it.
ability to return.
Yeah, so that's what you're getting. You're getting final, so. With those things to come back on the plans. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Aye. Huh?
Kristen,
I didn't hear you.
who seconded? Who seconded? Kristen.
He did now.
He said he did. He thought he did. I thought I did. I thought he did too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to our last item, and we're still 10 minutes behind. But we made a really good effort to get caught up. So we're on to item number 6, which is 400 West Pueblo Street, Cottage Hospital. This is a proposal for a new wireless communications facility for Verizon. The project consists of a new 336 square foot, 8-foot tall equipment platform enclosure on the hospital roof and a new 49 square foot, 8-foot tall antenna screening enclosure on the existing penthouse roof to contain 6 new wireless antennas and 3 new antennas mounted on the exterior of the penthouse. Okay, your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Tricia Knight, representing Verizon Wireless, Cottage Hospital, just orienting you here at Junipero, Oak Park, and Pueblo Streets. The hospital actually approached Verizon and asked for us to consider a facility on their building to increase the coverage for the doctors within the building and the surrounding area. So this is our preliminary conceptual review of that. Sure. This is the survey page after the site plan goes one more.
You're going to bring photos. You're going to show us
There are
photos, right?
photo sims, that is correct, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So there are 9 panel antennas proposed on the rooftop, building rooftop. We have a screen box that we've seen on other buildings within the city to screen 6 of the antennas for the azimuths that are required for the site. And then the last azimuth could not clear the entire length of the rooftop, so we're proposing that to be surface mounted. This is on the far end of the building. You'll see in the photosims views 3 and 4. The new construction that just got completed is view number 4. We have the option to add, this is a concrete surface here. So normally in the past you've seen where we can cut away at a building, we can put the antennas behind that material and then sort of paint to match over the top. Unfortunately, we don't have that flexibility here, so we can put some architectural screening over the surface of the antennas and as you look at the photos. But we didn't know if we wanted to do that, being that the visibility is not too visible for most of the vantage points or not.
Where was this photo taken from?
This photo is taken from, if you look at there you go, on the map.
Okay, let's go over that. Can you go run us through where you're seeing the new proposal from what perspectives?
So, number 1, back up here because the streets aren't on here. There we go. So this here is Bath Street, which is right here. So we're looking at it this way. So that's view number 1. You'll see the just upside down. There we go. So here's the screen box looking at it from this angle here, from Bath Street.
It's this little box.
Little box right there, correct. Yeah, the bigger shots. Sorry.
That'd be great. So that's one view.
Correct. That's number 1 here.
This is
looking
the
from Bath
existing,
Street.
and this is the new.
That's correct.
Okay. And then?
Then we'll go to number 2, which is looking from West Pueblo. So we're over here looking this way. And that is number 2 here. Thank you.
We can put the photos in the center and then not.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's right. We're trying to
zooms in on them.
Okay.
And then we go number 3, which is from West Junipero. Sorry, so if you can get an angle here. So we're looking back this way, towards here. And so that's when you're going to see, on this end cap here, you're going to see those antennas that are at the far end.
So where were you standing for this photo?
I didn't take this photo, but the vendor who did the photo sims is saying it's from right here.
And what about number 4?
Number 4 is taken from there's the new hospital construction that's going on here. And you'll see this is from an unfinished platform over here. Staff had asked us to consider that, being that that building is currently under construction. So like I said, we can go ahead and put, as you can see, there's 2 electrical conduits here. But we can put sort of a screen box over that would have, I'd say, about a 4, maybe a 3-foot extension out that would be painted to match as you've seen in previous installations within the city, if the board so chooses to consider that.
And then there's that.
Correct.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Do we have any public speakers for this project? I don't have any speaker slips. Go ahead and come on up now.
I'm Eric Lassen, architect, and I just wanted to express my concerns about the aesthetic issues that are being considered here. The hospital's gone through a lot of very attractive renovation work, and I think the community loves that. But now it seems that it's possible that another element is being attached, and it seems like it should have been really considered as part of the whole. And so I'm a little concerned about the fact that and I guess this committee will do their duty to make sure that it's not a bad idea, but it does seem to me that maybe it should have been considered in terms of the overall concept a little bit better.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? All right, questions from the board? Anybody ready to?
Any
Stephanie?
questions? This is on the part of the hospital that's going to be demolished, is it?
No.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
No. And we worked pretty consistently with the hospital as they were going through, as you know, all the different buildings and things that they're renovating and new construction. We had originally looked at going on the parking garage and several other different, and also there's certain guidelines within the zoning ordinance for what allowed uses are in particular buildings here. So we worked really closely with the hospital, and in the end, this was the best location that they thought for us to have our 24-hour access that's required, to have enough room for the equipment and to be able to screen our antennas. So we did work closely with them.
A question, you talked about something on the side of the building on this last view, 4. What are those things?
So those are the panel antennas. There's 3 of them, and they're approximately 4.5 feet long, and they would be mounted to that existing penthouse. No height increases or anything would be proposed.
Okay, you don't have a view of what these antennas look behind that screen wall? Are they just like this?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what?
The
I'm not
antennas.
really. Are you looking? Because there's
No. What I'm just wondering what these antennas look like that
They're about
screening.
4 feet without screening. They're about 4.5 feet long, about 6 inches wide, and about 2 inches deep.
Okay, so why the 8-foot high wall?
See, I thought you were talking about the antennas at the end that are
No.
mounted. In view number 4, that's what you're looking at. The ones that are inside the screen box are the same size, but we're able to house them because by the time you get your mounting brackets on the rooftop, then 4 feet of antenna, then mounting, I think there's about a foot of mounting above the screen box. So by the time, and then having to clear the parapet wall for the direction that they're shooting, you end up with that 8 foot because you have a parapet here that we have to clear.
You know what would be helpful is to show elevation, which we never looked at.
Okay.
Can you point out everything you're talking about on
Sure.
the elevation?
So here are the antennas that I'm referring to.
Behind
the
screen,
screen box.
the proposed
Correct.
screen box.
That is correct. And here's another elevation of the same box.
Do you have an elevation of the exposed one?
Yes. So if you look at, so if you look at the southwest elevation, you can see their proposed antennas on the outside of the penthouse.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The way that these things are on the outside of whatever this object is, this thing that's on the roof, that's the same thing as here.
That is correct.
And there's 6 units in here, and
Correct.
there's 3 over here.
That is correct.
So can 3 of these be moved to one side, and 3 of them move to this side, and 3 of them move to the other side? So basically, all 9 that are being proposed don't protrude taller than the existing penthouse?
If you look back here, the site plan here.
Let's go up one side.
Sure,
plan.
sure.
This one right here.
So, and if you look at, I want to say,
Or-
so what you're saying is you would want to see, so we're here, you're saying go here and here.
Yeah, here,
On the
here,
outside.
and even over here, and then wrap it with a screen, so that we're not increasing the verticalness anymore.
Okay.
Is that a possibility?
You know, I'd have to ask the hospital. They went through quite a bit of designing in this, so I would have to ask that.
But the access is no different than getting to these 3 if they're over here.
And I'm not sure if, looking at this existing rooftop equipment, keeping these cable trays a certain distance from that, I'm just going to have to ask them. What's something we can consider, definitely.
Because I would say under comments, the concern is just getting additional vertical protrusion. And if there was any way that we could take basically this object and put it over here to this side and then pop out this a little bit.
So there would be a pop out over each set of antennas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or one that covers all 3. That just, I don't know,
Architecture.
something,
Covers all 3. I wasn't following
Just-
you there.
you know,
Screens all
screens
three
all
on the
3
face
in
of the
one.
building.
Oh, yeah, no,
Otherwise,
you
they're
have-
just going to look like big antennas.
Well, you'd have a pop out here, you'd have a pop out here, and a pop out here. But yeah,
Right.
we'd be screening all 3 in this section, yes.
Yes.
Together.
Together, yes, not 3, not 1, 2, 3.
We're actually still on questions,
Sorry.
but if nobody has any questions, we can keep moving on with comments.
I can go into comments.
Go ahead, Gary.
The comment about screening this is good, or perhaps even moving them on the inside, like Paul was saying, and using some screen on the existing building. One of my biggest concerns that I have is this guy right here, and how this is going to be detailed. This is the conduit on the outside of the building. And
You didn't talk about that.
No,
It's the cable tray, yeah.
It's a cable tray that goes
the
all
old
the way
cable
on the
tray.
the old cable tray trick. And
It's the cable tray.
and
the utilities from the
it's
bottom
pretty
right.
it's pretty large and substantial, and I'd like to see details of how this incorporates with this portion of the building, how it incorporates with the eaves, how it incorporates with the eyebrows, and I think that
Where's
needs
that in
some
plan
serious
view?
study. It's not in plan view.
It's not, it wouldn't be in
yeah,
plan
it
view
is.
because
It's
it's
right
coming,
here.
is it?
Oh.
It's right here. It's this cable tray. So
Wow, that's really
I'm concerned with that. I'm definitely concerned about these 7 foot tall, not 4 foot
No,
tall.
it says 7. It says 7.
No, she mentioned they were 4 feet.
So these are 4 feet.
These are 4 feet?
Yeah, these are 4
Okay.
feet.
So I'm concerned with those a lot. And
These say 7 too.
Okay, I'll
Sorry,
correct
sorry.
that. No, it's
so I'm concerned with that, and I think the height of the building is. Well, I'm not as concerned with this being in the center of the building, of this particular building, but I am concerned with the exposed antennas.
Okay. Chris?
I have nothing additional. I defer to Gary's comments, but I agree with.
You agree with Gary's comments?
Yes.
Stephanie, did you make comments yet? No.
I didn't. I have another question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Is there an alternative way you could turn these things, or they have to be mounted vertically?
Meaning turning them horizontally?
Horizontally.
No, they do
Okay.
have to be
Okay.
vertical, yeah, due to their mounting mechanisms
Okay.
and the way that they broadcast the signal.
That's it.
Comments?
I would be very concerned about that cable conduit tray. And
Well, what I think I'll do is I'll ask the hospital too about boring
think you're gonna
inside
have
the
to.
building. Yeah.
yeah.
My comments are, I'm concerned about the conduit. I'm concerned about the vertical antennas here. And I'm concerned about extending the height of this already large building.
So you would
And with the
rather
scrutiny
see
that
it
we
on the
gave
outside?
the hospital when we approved the original project, I'm concerned about all of it. So that's my comment. Would anybody like to make a motion?
The comments would be is to return back to full board with a design that incorporates all of the proposed antennas to be at a height no greater than the existing mechanical penthouse.
Okay.
And the second comment would be is to conceal all, or to conceal all of the proposed antennas. And the third comment is to conceal all of the exposed cable trays, either on the interior of the building or with an appropriate architectural solution.
Okay.
That's a great motion. Can I have a seconder to the motion? Seconded by Stephanie. Under discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. And that concludes the Architectural Board of Review meeting for April 16th. Thank you for watching.
It's still light outside.